to hold on to, gotta find it first. But here I am, 'cause I've been laying under palm trees, waiting for the summer, knowing there's nowhere to go. 'Cause I am happy on this island, wanna be my farmland. I don't ever want to leave, I'm in a tropic club.
Hello everybody and welcome to the Masters Showdown, and it's for the second time this season we are going to have the Triple Crown champion to be named, and it is Kyren Wilson against John Higgins after an incredible battle that we've seen with Judd Trump and Mark Selby at the UK Championship. Are these two men going to take it one step further, and we're going to see a decider, because we have certainly seen a couple of those in the previous couple of matches, both of them having to dig really deep against Zhao for John Higgins in the quarter-final. Then he had a very difficult match against Judd Trump, being 5-3 down in both of those occasions, but in the end, it is still the Wizard that keeps marching on towards his third Masters crown. And on the other point, and very much at the other corner of the table, he's going to be up against the Warrior, the man that's done a similar sort of thing against Weezer and Neil Robertson. It was very much a challenge for him, especially against Neil, coming back from being 4-1 down. In the end, forcing a decider there, despite leading by 5-4. And in the end, Higgins and Wilson both managed to win their respective matches as John makes his way onto the arena. I think this has got decider written all over it, especially since we haven't seen one in the last, well, at least 3 or 4 Triple Crown finals. Up to date, we had very close one of those, with Selby and Trump just being one frame away of the full house. In the end, Zhao took his win over Mark Williams quite comfortably. And if you go back to the Masters final 12 months ago, guess who was there? It was Kyren Wilson. But in the end, he hasn't managed to achieve the result that he would have wanted. And he's got the third chance to try and do it, as he's got his trademark walkout once again, as he's done every single time. Walking out here at the Alexandra Palace. And well, we've seen Lickler be the world champion of darts here last season. And let's see if it is going to be the same story for another man from England. Slightly older than Luke, of course. But still, is it going to be the third crown for John Higgins, or is it going to be the first one of the Masters for Kyren Wilson? We're about to find out very shortly, as Wilson certainly enjoying his way. Trying to enjoy and savour the moment. But I think when it comes to pure prediction time, you need Wilson to try and do similar sort of thing that he's done against Robertson, against Si Xiaowei, and against Weezer to an extent there, because he did have that 4-2 of a lead, which he did say he wasn't really happy with the way he's managed to handle that one for himself, and just allowing his opponent from China to win 3 frames on the bounce, and in the end still coming out on top in an incredible decider, and only needing one chance to produce a century break to win it all. Now we've got a picture of the two players in front of the Crystal Trophy. The referee once again has been a bit of a trade this tournament between Marcel Edgar, Rob Spencer, and in the end it is going to be T'Challa Wollaston officiating the first Masters final in the career. Now then, I think it is going to be Kyren Wilson to get us underway. So not quite. Just the toss there to be done, and in the end it is going to be Kyren Wilson. So see, he can, well, straight away you can recognise both of the players enjoying that one. So Higgins clearly going with the flow and just allowing Kyren to take the opening frame. Take it away. We have seen a couple of mistakes, but surely not to come in the opening encounter on the first frame to get the Masters started here with the final. once again, as you would expect, the UK Championship and the Masters, well, any major really, of the fire on the snooker tour. You're going to have the first to 10 wins. And as you always have, you've got 8 frames to try and make your way through the opening session. And sometimes it can be reduced to 7 or 9, increased to 9, if the flow of the match is going to be too slow or too quick at some point. But when you've got 2 players playing at the top of the game, as they have been recently, I think it's very unlikely that it's going to drag on for a while. I think the match is going to be played in a great spirit of the attacking play. And straight away, there's the confirmation. Higgins trying to go for a long shot. And in the end, he needs to make sure that red is not going to be possible there into the right middle. Because that was going to be the only point of danger. He wasn't leaving anything at the bottom part of the table. And you can see confident winning against Seashell in the opening round. Less so in the second and thirds though. We had a quarter-final decider against both Neil Robertson and Weezer. Now he's got a first opportunity to try and go for this red. Into the middle. As he misses that one, so catches too much of the jaw closer to himself. And I think he just about left the red next to that right middle to allow John Higgins to maybe go on a bit of a challenge himself here for the opening break. And if you talk about Higgins, well, same scoreline. 6-0 against Barry Hawkins in the opening round. Then he had the matches against Joussington and Judd Trump. So it doesn't really get any tougher than that when he comes to the opposition. Then trying to beat the world champion in the decider. And the world number 1. And the player that seemed to be the man to beat. As Higgins is underway. Gets the red nicely into the right middle. And it's all about lining up the position on the brown. And tough call, they're well matched. The first mistake will be the decider. Well, yes and no. I think that the fact that we've seen John Higgins come back from 3-0 down against Judd Trump. And in the end, that 4-1 of a gap for Kyren Wilson to disappear very quickly indeed. I think it just shows that it is going to be very difficult for one of the players to run away with it. I do expect a very close final in between the 2 of them, but I also do think that if one of the players has to try and get a bit of a gap on, it has to be Kyren Wilson. It just feel like, especially after beating Judd Trump there, Higgins can do absolutely no wrong in terms of it's his second ranking event final this season. And the opening one, of course, was someone against the opposition of Kyren Wilson in the semi-final. It was Weezer that he wasn't able to find the answer to. And he had an incredible opening session where he looked like he was going to lose 7-2. And somehow, I think it was 5-4 or something, that he was on the receiving end of, somehow managing to find those 4 frames in the bag. But still didn't do enough in the second session to get him to, well, certainly be the oldest ranking event winner here, especially when it comes to the major tournaments, which he will become should he be victorious here. The oldest finalist since 1983. And right now, he got a great chance to spread the bunch of those reds to make sure that the 6 points that he currently scores is going to be massively increased in a number. Hopefully multiplied by around 10 for now, as the black has to go over the bunch and right underneath the pink, which is probably not going to be great news there. But I suppose as long as you get the 2 reds away from the black spot, you should be able to put the pink in there and have the black to be potable onto the left and right middle. So for now, Higgins is going to be trying to study that and ensure that, well, he's got the opportunity to try and play for the blue right now. I don't think he'll try and hold the cue ball for the pink because it's not going to, well, do a lot of good there to himself. And looking at his win, his 10th Triple Crown title and his first since 2011 World Championships. So it's only been a while. Remember, he won the Masters in 1999 and 2006. So still 20 years on from that, trying to compete at the highest level and doing very well, to be fair. Now gets to the top part of the table. He's got the red, which was previously missed there by Wilson, trying to eliminate into the green pocket. And if he uses the cue ball nicely off the side cushion, should be able to get himself lined up for the yellow and then have the path for the cue ball to be sent to the lower part of it again. Now, I'm rooting for John today. I've lost my 2. Yes, so understandable. And I think probably, as I say, don't have a horse in the race at all. But Kyren has won an invitational event this season at the Shanghai Masters. He was playing really well at that tournament. He seems to be back to his best, and well, for the simple, not going to say sympathy though, but just because, you know, Kyren's going to have plenty more of those opportunities, but not so much with all the respect you could have for John Higgins. He can't turn time to go the other way around, and this is going to be one of his, well, unfortunately, last opportunity to try and win the Masters crown number 3. It's been 20 years since the second one, and now it takes the yellow, and I think he was trying to make contact with the main bunch, and not the 2 reds next to the black ball spots, and well, we got a little bit lucky there with the double kiss, but it still shouldn't be enough there for him to extend the break here significantly, because tournament backspin success 54%, and I'm not sure if that one is going to count towards it, because, you know, yes, he's got a simple enough red there to try and take into the right corner, but I think he's going to have a very difficult job of trying to line the colour after this one. And he's trying to force the way of the cue ball, and I don't think that's going to do it a lot of good for him either. And, well, it looks like it is going to be the end of a break. So 22 points. I still think it's a lot better than what we've seen in the opening 3 frames against the world number 1 yesterday. So just trying to take those points and just approaching the shot one by one. Wilson is yet to have a real opportunity to try and go on a break building himself. And I think it is just going to be a safety shot off the green. There was no point trying to play a reckless shot on the blue because of the cue ball being so close to the side cushion, the distance being there. It was just not a type of a shot that you would expect John Higgins to take on, especially in the opening frame. But there's no point to be taking any of those risks just yet. And tournament safety success, if we go through the stats there, 75% for Wilson, so 79% for Higgins. He's minor advantage that he's got on the first aspect of the game. When it comes to the pot success, he's got even more of an advantage, 92%, plays 89 there, to the advantage from the man from Scotland. And when it comes to long pot success, Wilson has been struggling for those, especially in the semi-final and the quarter-final. At the business end of those matches, 53 for him and 73% for John Higgins. He's got tournament positional success with a minor advantage this time around for the Warrior. 89 plays 88. And, well, Higgins, I think he could have played a better shot there. Not too sure the angle that he was trying to play the red. Obviously put the cue ball onto the side cushion first and get the red to be bounced away into the open play. And, well, I think Wilson will try and go for this red now with a long shot. He's got a chance to try and take it into the left middle, but I think the angle's not going to be there for him. And tournament highest break made. 116 for Wilson and 114 for John Higgins. When it comes to the average shot time, once again, Wilson has got the upper hand. So 22 seconds, plays 28. I think he's trying to get the cue ball into the zone, where he's not going to give any of the other reds away. But is he going to make this one stick? No, he won't. So he's not going to be able to do that now. As you can see, he's made 6 centuries in the previous 3 matches to only 2 of those for John Higgins. One of them, of course, was made in the match against Judd Trump, and I think the other one was made in the match against Barry Hawkins. Might have been, yeah, I think it was Barry Hawkins. I don't think he's made any of those against Xiaozington. But anyway, he's going to have one of those reds that Wilson wasn't able to cover up, and he's got it. So once again, it is John Higgins on the run. I think it's been pretty much the perfect start for him. It's been quite steady in terms of the number of points that he was able to score. But that still should be good enough for him to try and get this black into the left corner right now. And get the cue ball to basically stop off the ping, potentially. And then he just has to try and make his way through those reds onto the right corner. Play the shot beautifully out there, because remember, the 2 reds that were previously covering their black ball spot, which was the reason why the black actually ended up occupying the pink spot out there, and no longer there after all the safety battle that we've seen. And now Higgins should be, well, cruising through to 50 points advantage. I think anything more than that is going to be slightly more of an issue. So these reds to be taken there with the rest. And of course, at the early part of the tournament, we've had Kyren Wilson with a perfect record when it comes to those red shots. And think the end of the match against Neil Robertson has seen those stats to drop off slightly, as he now gets himself lined up for the ping to be taken into the left middle nicely. So doesn't have to do anything with the position for maybe 2 or 3 shots, because I think he has got the lowest one of those reds closer to the right-hand side of the table, possible into the left corner. I'm just asking the referee to clean the white. And he's got 37 points in advantage, 91 still remaining to be played. And Wilson is looking to try and land his first pot of the match. Something that, well, actually he was able to do to Neil Robertson. The early part of their encounter, I think he was able to make a century break in the early frame against Neil. And keeping him very much busy in his chair. Having that 3-0 advantage, which he wasn't able to put away nicely though, because he was trying to play the black into the right corner for a 4-0 lead. It was a deciding black of the 4th frame, and in the end, despite playing an incredible pink the shot before that, he wasn't able to get over the line in that 4th frame, and that allowed Robertson to build some sort of momentum going into the second mini session, which in the end has resulted in him taking the match to a decider. And Higgins pretty much has got the opposite story there to speak for himself, because he has, well, he's had this 3-0 deficit for him to try and climb back from in the match against Watchalong. He's managed to force it to 5-3 down, despite, you know, all the drama and all the praise that you have to give to John Higgins. But remember, he could have had even easier task of getting through to the final had he been slightly more clinical himself. He had the opportunity to try and land, 3 frames on the bounce, making it 3 frames each. In the end, was a frame ball short, as he undercut the red by a millimetre or so into the right corner. And of a similar shot of the blue, by the way, and as long as he's got the top red available, he should be alright to be taking that one into the left corner. And that's clearly what he was playing for. So that should be the only shot where he can go wrong, because of the cue ball inevitably going into those reds. Positional success so far, 94%, with them running out of position only on one of those shots. So plays another great cannon into those reds, and in the end he should be able to take them out one by one. He's got 5 of those at the table, and the next red is going to be frame ball for him taking the opening frame. And I think that was is very much the contrasting performance to the one that we've seen in the final against Weezer, because remember, despite Kyren Wilson and Ali Carter being very close in the opening final of the season, the Shanghai Masters, Wilson, I want to say, pretty much 90% of that time had the match under control, same as Weezer, and we haven't seen really an incredible comeback at that point. It was a great opportunity for Carter to take it to the decider and make it 10 frames each. But in the end, it was the brilliant Wilson that came out on top on frame number 20 and produced a little clearance of his own. And for now, it is going to be the clearance for John Higgins. 43 points that he scores without the response for now from Wilson's point of view. Did John lead because of a lucky spread, or did he take a brave shot? It basically was a bit of a mixed bag there, because the second opportunity, the one that you can see right now that got him onto a 44 points lead, was after a mistake from Wilson. And he was taking a really difficult long shot, to be fair. And in the end, he was never going to get the cue ball safe enough there to make sure that all of the reds were covered up. He managed to cover up about 11 of them, but in the end, it was one of them that John Higgins was able to find his way through, get it into the left corner, and in the end, he got himself into the break of 52 points and counting, so still technically possible for a century, as long as he takes those 2 reds with the black, but with them being on the side cushion, I think that is going to be mission impossible, even for someone as good as John Higgins in the business. Now then, the break of 58 points, as I say, he's got the opportunity to try and maybe play a backspin shot here on one of those reds, and well, in the end, he wasn't playing for the black anyway, so just trying to maximize the table time. Not able to do so right now, but it is still going to be the break of 58 points, which is going to be a very much a solid start there to John Higgins, as he leads Kyren Wilson 1 frame to nil. And when it comes to the head-to-head, it's their first meeting at the Masters, as far as I'm aware. Third final for Kyren Wilson at this venue. He had one in 2018. He had one last year against John Murphy. And now he's got one this year. So back-to-back finals. Something that Judd Trump has managed to achieve at the UK Championship in this and last season. Of course, was able to win the first one, but not the second one in the All-English Derby. With the same scoreline, as far as I can remember, Barry Hawkins lost out to him by 10 frames to 8. And, well, same can be said about Judd Trump himself, losing out to Mark Selby this time a couple of months ago. And, well, Wilson, I think he was coming into that final with Murphy just playing the snooker of his life there. Remember, he made the maximum against Mark Cullen in the semi-final, which was an incredible story for him. And he was just playing the snooker of his life there. I think the crowd would have liked to see a really close final, but I think Murphy would have slightly had the upper hand there in terms of the crowd support. For the simple reason of I think Wilson was dominating the game last season, and Murphy not so much. And, well, remember that these players have got a lot to battle it out for. The runner-up, so one of them will receive 140,000 worth of prize money in pound sterlings. In the end, it is going to be 350,000 of those for whoever is able to land 10 frames first. Once again, it is going to be John Higgins to try and take it away there with the break-off shot. And in my narrow eyes, Zhao was lucky to win 5 frames against Trump, and Trump was just as lucky to win 5 frames. Well, that's very narrow eyes, I would say, because if you've seen the way that Trump has managed to take those 5 frames, I certainly don't think that you would say that. Because, well, I mean, I haven't really seen the entire match of Zhao Xingdong against John Higgins, but I've seen bits of that, and I've seen the full replica of frame number 9 and 10, and the decider, obviously, but I don't think he was lucky. I think he was playing really well, and I think there were a couple of occasions that got flukes in the way of John Higgins that helped him on his way to the win. But right now, it's a brilliant shot, and it's the turn for Kyren Wilson to try and get his game to a new level. It's a wonderful long shot that he takes into the left corner. Didn't even wobble in the jaws 1 second there. And he should have the opportunity to play the yellow into the right middle. But, well, he refuses the shot straight away, so he didn't try to do something that was achieved by John Higgins yesterday, getting the cue ball perfectly off the bulk and back onto the lower part of the table. Right now, you've got 1 point advantage for Wilson, and back to Johnny goes. I mean, I say that he's tried to line the snooker, but he was playing the yellow to get it closer to the right middle, and in the end, just land the cue ball somewhat close to the brown. Because, of course, they're using one of the other colours as just a cushion for the cue ball to bounce away from. And in the end, he was never going to get too close to the brown without playing the shot perfectly. But looks to have played it well enough for Higgins to be forced to go the long way around of the bulk onto the side of the left part of the table, onto the right, and trying to come back onto one of the lower reds. This seems like a perfect line there, but is he going to have the power? Well, I mean, I say it's going to be the perfect line. The cue ball probably is just going to be slightly too close to the red for Wilson to be considering to taking that one into the left corner. Straight away, there's the confirmation. Wilson is going to ask John Higgins to try and get the cue ball to the lower part of the table. Both matches were great with incredible shots on his kit. Yeah, I agree with that. And listen, there's always, you can always be criticised for when you lose such a close match. But in the end, you have to give massive credit there to Judd Trump and Zhao Xingdong. But you don't have to give credit for this shot to John Higgins. He's made the mess of that one. And once again, going off the bulk onto the left side. But didn't reach the right side this time around, catching the yellow on the way in. That impacted the way the cue ball bounced away massively. And it's going to give initiative away to Wilson. He's got an opportunity to try and take this red along the black ball cushion. And it's the opportunity wasted. Unable to take the red. Catches too much of the front jaw. And despite being on the black, had the cue ball bounced away off the side, it's no longer going to be the case. And John Higgins can try and take the same red away. Has bounced away slightly closer to the side cushion than he would have liked. And in the end, you're going to have to try and make your way through it. Scores were very close. They won taking the table in the last frame with that good red position 1. Agree. That was the case with Robertson against Wilson. Wilson's done really well to have that break in the end to force a decider. Sorry, not to force it, but to win a decider. And then he's done similar sort of thing against Weezer. You know, he wasn't able to do that from the first time, but when the second mistake came from Wu, he was able to make a century out of it, which is triple as incredible when you make it in the decider, especially for that to come in the semi-final of the Triple Crown event. And didn't play a good safety shot though here though, and you can see that Higgins tried to give himself a bit of advantage to force the cue ball to go to the top part of the table, and in the end Wilson is unable to respond. Just puts the cue ball perfectly onto the brown spot, and we have seen those long shots taken at crucial times there for John Higgins. I think that was the very similar raid that he's taken on to win the match against Judd Trump, with Trump playing his last shot of the entire tournament before that. And what an incredible shot this is there, because I said the previous snooker attempt was brilliant from John Higgins, and right now this is going to be the snooker which will put Kyren Wilson under a lot of pressure, and the cue has to be sent onto the left side cushion, but onto the right side cushion I mean. But with 14 reds, the 9 point next to Kyren Wilson has confused me there a little bit. Yeah, 14 reds and being spread out super wide away from each other. So that's going to be very difficult to try and land one particular of those reds to ensure that the cue ball is going to bounce away into the safe spot. And, well, he's tried to roll to them. I think that's way too risky, especially if he's underrun for it, and he has. I mean, hindsight is a beautiful thing there, but I actually think that it was the right shot for him to play, because he was always going to leave the red into the right middle, and in the end he's left a very easy red into the left corner as well. John Higgins will try and study the position to great extent, but he should be able to have a straightforward beginning to this break. And you can see that Wilson and Higgins have met on 11 occasions differently, and Higgins leading their head-to-head 8 matches to 3. A couple of those in the Crucible. I think they have met in their semi-final of the Crucible. Was that where Mark Williams and John Higgins were sharing the stage with a brilliant 34 frame match in 2018? I think that was the case. And the finals between the 2nd and 5th ranked players, a total of 7. So yes, of course, both of them would have been 3rd and 6th seeded players when you add Sean Murphy into the game as well. And, well, right now, with him being eliminated in the first round, of course, Kyren Wilson would have been the underdog had it been for the ace in the pack to be in the final, especially when it comes to their head-to-head meetings, which, I mean, say especially, if you look at the last couple of finals that the two players have been and played in between each other, then he's going to be a minor advantage to Wilson. But for the simple reason of, you know, Chum being at the top of his game throughout the last couple of tournaments, or pretty much there or thereabouts, when it comes to the UK, of course, missed the Scottish Open, didn't bother to play in the Championship League for now, and in the end was still very much at the top of his game at the end of the 2025 calendar year. But right now, as long as we don't have a repeat of the final, for me, of Weezer John Higgins, I was always going to be very much looking forward to this one, because you never want to repeat when you can have something a bit different, especially when you've got two great players coming up against each other. Kyren Wilson right now, he's going to be slightly worried that he'll find himself testing his own medicine there, leading by 3 frames to 0 in 2 of the opening 3 matches that he's played. Right now, he's going to be quite close to be under pressure to go 2-0 down, with John Higgins looking to make his way through. 115 points remaining at the table. Of course, we'll need all of them to do the damage here to Wilson. Yeah, but he's got, basically, he's got, what is it now? 11 reds, taking out pretty much 10, maybe not even 10, but 5% of the table there. And that's going to make it really difficult for Higgins to try and make his way through all of them. And he's able to do it for now. Lil Cannon to get the cue ball in amongst them. And I think he's played himself a really nice shot there to get 4 of those into play. First red to be taken into the right middle. And I remember Kyren waving a white flag against John. Maybe not. Yes, I don't actually know if it was against John. And remind me which match it was. I think it was this season, but maybe wrong about that. May have been last season as well. Yeah, I do remember. For whatever reason, I thought it was against Mark Selby that he's done that. And right now, 31 points. He's going to be the break here for Higgins. He's able to stay on the black for the time being, as he's got 26 of those as his advantage over Kyren Wilson. When's the next tournament? Well, it depends. You've got the German Masters coming in just about 7 days, with still a bit of hope to finally see the 7-time world champion. And it's not Stephen Hendry, it's going to be Ronnie O'Sullivan. Well, looking to play the qualifier match against Long Jae-hyun, as he has said. After being knocked out by Watchalong at the UK Championship, he was looking forward to playing the Masters, but at the German Masters, I should say. He did say that he had no clue whether he was going to play in the Triple Crown, the Masters, which, when Ronnie says he doesn't know, it probably is going to be 85% of him not playing and just trying to, play, well, a bit of respect there to himself so he doesn't get any trouble with WPBSA there, because technically, of course, he's not supposed to be withdrawing from the tournament just 48 hours before, which was what's actually done. And 2 successive Masters tournaments now, with 2025 and 2026, with his cards being awarded to, I think it was Ali Carter last season, and of course Chris Wakeland this time around. And yeah, so that's going to be the German Masters. Then you're going to have the actual Championship League to finish. So you're going to have the couple of groups to be played, and then you're going to have the final playoffs with all the players, and the World Open is going to be right after that, with having the likes of Welsh Open, World Grand Prix, all of that still yet to come as we approach the Tour Championship being the highlight of the season, and it's certainly the calm before the storm. And then we get to the Sheffield for the Crucible Theatre to host another World Championship tournament in between the best players on the snooker tour. And can anyone recall when was the last major tournament final, which was played between 2 players with a smaller collective ranking, way smaller than 7? Well, I'm going to say that it was Mark Selby, and well, I'm not sure Selby was lower than 6, to be fair, at the UK Championship against Chump, because Chump was the world number 1. That wasn't against Lisowski, it wasn't against Shanghai Masters. Yeah, he probably would have been Robertson against O'Sullivan at the Saudi Arabia Masters, because that would have been 3 and 4. So technically he's going to be the same thing. With, I think Robertson was the world number 4, Sullivan the world number 3. And then, of course, when he got 500,000 worth of ranking points, he got himself to the world number 3 at that point. And, well, it's a very important shot that he's trying to play right now. Despite him having 46 points of advantage, he still needs to shred, and I'm not sure he's got it. I mean, he's way too close there with the cue ball. He has to basically fly over the table, with the cue ball being quite awkward there. And he's got around 80% of the table to try and reach over to get to the cue ball, let alone trying to control the white enough there to ensure that he's got to land himself on the colour, which is the actual Selby right. Well, it is number 6 right now, but he did get 250,000 worth of ranking points for it, so I think he was, because I remember he missed out on the Riyadh Championship, so he must have been just outside of top 10, so I don't think that would have been it. So, I would say Kyren Wilson against Judd Trump in the German Masters, as long as I'm not confusing him with Barry Hawkins. I think that was the last final, which has seen the world number 1 up against the world number 2 at that point. And, well, Higgins still very much reluctant to try and give this opportunity away. So he's looking to try and get himself a bit of Red Bull and find some wings there, because he has to try and get this red into the left corner whilst bridging over a couple of those reds while still trying to reach the cue ball, despite it being pretty much under the pink spot, with him trying to do diagonally across the green pocket. Just getting this table to be even lengthier there for himself. Well, it's a very risky shot there for him to be taking on, because apart from one of those reds being on the black percussion, if he misses it, he could give this chance away there. And, well, this is exactly what happened. He basically miscued there, and the red was nowhere near. He played it really well in terms of the line, but he was nowhere near reaching the pocket, so just not enough pace, and yeah, you can see that he just didn't play it with any real power. The minor concern for Wilson has to be the fact for him to be played this red into the left corner is that he has to breach over the black. He's done it before. Can he do it again here? Last pot time, 13 minutes. Of course, that was the opening pot in this frame. The opening two have actually dragged on here. So we're at the middle point of this one. And it's been 30 minutes or so since we got the match underway. Has he got the lovely kiss? I don't think he has. And he's going to have to try and play a safety shot out of it. 2 balls potted. No colour. Chance at all there. And, well, should have played better, to be fair. Of course, easier said than done. But I think the contact on the red that he made wasn't something that he planned. And in the end, he just got the cue ball way too close to the blue. As he now finds himself 45 points behind with 75 points in there to be taken. And whatever he does, he needs to make sure he's not going to be losing at the intermission by 4 frames to 0 there. 3-1 is not going to be perfect, but at least he'll leave him with a chance. 4-0 against someone like John Higgins. I mean, you don't see many of those gaps to be wasted there from Big John. As now he's trying to just get the minor contact on the blue and try and force the cue ball as close to the yellow angle of the table. Closer to the yellow pocket as well. And I mean, it does look like he has thought about this one for a while, but I don't really agree with the way for him to try and give this red away into the left corner. Can Wilson not hold for the black then? Well, he can't, he couldn't. And he basically was playing off the black and he was always going to get into the bold colours or the blue. And in the I think he was about to underrun for the blue had he not been for the contact on the red. And, well, as I say, the contact has changed the things completely. Got the cue ball to be a couple of millimetres away from the blue. And in the end, that wasn't possible into either middle or the green pocket there. But Higgins once again responds with a really nice safety there, just guiding one of those reds towards the right corner. And missed it by just about enough of a distance for this red to be still in play, but not possible there for Wilson. And back to Johnny goes. Very similar position to the one that he had previously. And when it comes to the comeback, being very much on there for Wilson, he's got one of those reds onto the black ball cushion, but also, well, 2/3 of the way and just 1/3 away from the left corner pocket there. So he's going to be able to try and roll that one in. Although, as I say that, he had the only opportunity in the second frame, which is here, to try and get a similar sort of red. Got too much of the jaw and unable to do so. Once again there, Higgins just looking for that red to try and take it into the right corner. But if he missed it by enough on the previous occasion, he hasn't done so now. And the same red is certainly going to be potted there by Wilson. Well, I say potted. Taken. Can't really see him missing this one at all, with it being so close. And this is the question then. Can he try and hold it for the black? He's tried to. And, I mean, a good thing I've taken my words back. And in the end, he has actually somehow managed to keep the red onto the table. Don't know how. But sometimes that can be the difficulty when you try and hold the cue ball for the black. In the end, he just caught too much of that red. And surely that's going to be frame to John Higgins right now. He needs a couple of reds and black combinations now. With him having 75 points at the table as it stands. And once again, has to reach pretty much across the entire table there with the rest. Just clearly not feeling that he wants to try and do it off the side cushion, which could have been the possibility for him either. And 46 points is going to be the difference, with around 67 still at the table. And I will say this, we have seen it with Neil Robertson, but that was at the quarter-final. We've seen it with John Higgins to an extent, but that was at the semi-final. But Kyren Wilson may very much score just a single point in terms of his highest break there in the opening 2 frames of the final showdown here. And that's not going to be anywhere near good enough to the level that you would hope Kyren to perform, especially at the early stage. I think you know that he needs to be up and running straight away And well, for this being the reason, he's going to have a very difficult job of trying to get back on track very quickly. Especially if he's going to allow John Higgins to be 2 frames away from him. But a bit of a weird shot that Higgins has played now, because he had the opportunity to try and play for the red into the left middle. He's got the cue ball to be over that line, so that's not going to be playable. But Higgins is having a look at that red. But as he gets the extension on the cue, surely he's going to go for the one into the left corner. But he could have made this one so much easier for himself. It does remind you slightly of the previous shot that he's missed into the left corner. Now ahead by 53 points, so he needs a red and a black combination again. And he should be out of the picture here. But I don't think he's got it. And he hasn't. So the red is just about going to stay out there. So 53 points advantage. And yeah, you're going to have to try and make your way through there. Wilson, he's got 3 unforced errors already, but John has got 2 as well. I think both of them are going to have to be coming from those rest shots. And, well, Wilson is considering maybe just take one of those reds off the black ball cushion and try and aim it into the red, which is basically in the pocket. But I think for him to miss the red previously, so close to the pocket, I have to just try and take it with the cue ball normally. But the clearance is very much on. Yellow, brown, pink are out of the position. So pink on the brown spot. Yellow closer to the right middle. Brown close to the ball cushion in the middle of it. A couple of reds being close to each other. And as I say, the final red is going to be onto the black ball cushion. But the 2 reds that I mentioned are going to be close to each other. Going to have to be separated now, because he's got the ability to try and take the lower one into the right corner. Was Robertson ranked as high as 4 when he won inside? Well, I don't think so. Because you get 500... Well, you can do the maths there, to be fair, because you just take 500,000 points away from him. I don't think he had any points to defend, because I don't think there was a tournament, Saudi Arabia Masters 2 seasons ago. So you just simply try and subtract it and see if he's going to be on 500,000 or something. Would that still put him in top 4, which I don't think he would. So, I don't know about that one. Now, then takes this red and a black combination. He should be able to be fine for the next 2 reds. And it's just a question of he wants to try and leave that red onto the black ball cushion till last. And he's tried to play this shot before. I think it was against Robertson. And I think he's going to try and do it again. Basically, a bit of the angle on the black from the left part of the table into the right corner for the black to go. And just trying to get that cue ball into the red. That's what he's tried. Has he worked out? No, I don't think he did. I don't think he did that. Good news is he might just be able to get the red into the left middle for now. And then stay for the... Well, not really stay, but just keep the cue ball running for the ball colours. And just have the ability to try and bring it down the table in a couple of shots' time. Of course, that's not going to help his chances in terms of making this clearance last from this position right now, because the yellow is in quite an awkward spot there for you to be playing from the lower part of the table on the previous shot. So whatever he does, he needs to make sure he's going to be forcing the white to go to the top part of the table after he takes the last colour off the red. And for now, he needs to concentrate on dropping this red in. He's done that. Basically, I think he has... Well, has he committed to trying to take this brown onto the pink spot and basically swap them around with the pink? And or is he going to try and drop the yellow into the right middle? Because that's going to have the angle, technically, for the white to try and force it closer to this red. And just needs to make sure he's going to be close enough to the red there to try and drop it into the left part of the table. But still, meanwhile, have the angle to try and force the cue ball to... I mean, ideally, because you don't have the pink in the middle of the black and the blue, you want to be playing the blue as the colour after the last red. So the yellow is in. The cue ball seems to be very close to this red. Is he going to have the angle? He might just about have... Well, he probably won't have enough angle to try and force it for the blue. But, I mean, if he tries to get underneath the black slightly so that he doesn't compromise himself too much on the potting angle, he should be alright there. He has, whoa, I mean, he found all the angle in the world. And he somehow managed to get over the blue ball line. And he got himself onto the green. So clearly feeling that. That red was close enough for the left corner for him to try and take that risk. So for now, it's a straightforward clearance apart from, he's now 22 points behind, so that's not going to matter. He's got paint to be on the brown spot, and he's got the brown to be slightly higher up than the D and closer to the ball cushion. So then he got the yellow in, and once again has to do it with the rest. Slightly over the top there of the brown to try and send it off the side cushion on for the blue. And, well, realistically, I think the only problem that he's going to have, as long as he keeps those angles correctly there to himself, he's going to be the transition shot from the pink to the black. But that's going to be very much the last shot of the break. So he doesn't have to worry about that one just in this moment in time. Now then he's going to be taking on the 17 points of a deficit. So trying to take this brown right now and get himself lined up for the blue. Once again needs to realise that he needs the cue ball to go to the top part of the table. So needs to be slightly lower than the blue. He's done that. And when I say slightly lower, I think he's over on slightly. May need to use the ball cushion as well to have the cue ball bounce away. And he's done that. Where is he going to finish? He needs the angle on the pink. He doesn't want to be straight on it. And he also doesn't want to be forcing the cue ball to the top part of the table. Well, I think that's exactly what he's done here. He doesn't seem to be too worried about it. So, clearly just still backing himself to try and go for the topspin shot. But that's going to be difficult. He needs the bounce of two cushions. At least there, off the bulk, off the side. And where's he going to finish? Well, I think he's just going to finish just about perfect. He could not have played the shot any better from the position that he found himself at. Well, I mean, slightly over under, but he's still fine for this black to be taken. And now it is going to be the black to make it a steal in the second frame and take it to one frame each. And he's done that. So that's the first real milestone that Kyren Wilson manages to accomplish in the opening two frames. And after having his highest break of just a single point, he's managed to take it to a break of 58 points, same as the previous best by John Higgins. And it is now one frame each. Highest break is going to be equal again. And John Higgins, well, not for the first time, of course, but still, it's slightly weird to see him lose out on some of those frames when he's usually the one delivering the steals and trying to punish their opponents for the mistakes. And, well, just wasn't clinical enough there, John, because he had the opportunity to try and close off the frame on a couple of those occasions. But once again, two of those rest shots, just getting the most out of him. The second one was punished to full extent there by Wilson because it was a still very difficult clearance to try and make his way through. But he was able to do so. And in the end, it is going to be Kyren Wilson 1, John Higgins 1, as we take on the third frame of the first mini session. And it's still all to play for. And great steal. It was a great steal. And as I say, it was very important there for Wilson to ensure that he doesn't allow someone like John Higgins to dominate the play, especially when he comes to the final of a major event. The last thing that you want to be doing there. But you will be aware of the fact that, of the two players, of course, different stages of their careers, but he's not the one looking to try and land his first Triple Crown event of the 14 years, because he only have, well, to be fair, he only has one of those with the World Championship, but still, it's 13 years more recent than the one that John Higgins has got to his name, as Higgins in the end, after a bit of consideration, goes for a bathroom break himself. So clearly not too eager on waiting on there for Wilson. He's gone on and made his way out of the arena a couple of seconds before that. So, well, once again, we've got the setup, and it's going to be either 3-1 to one of the players, or 2 frames each to be shared after the opening 4 of those. And, of course, players on their point of view have to try and make sure that they're going to be the one leading after the first 4 frames being played, but just ensure that you're not going to be losing. That's going to be the way to start. And I'm going to stick to the fact of Wilson needs this first session a lot more than John Higgins does. He's been there, done it before, And they call him the comeback king for a reason. Of course, his decided record is not quite going to be as good as the one that John Higgins has got to his name. But Wilson will still back himself when it comes to the business part of those matches. But for now, he needs to try and concentrate on winning, hopefully, for himself, 3 matches on the bounce. And that will allow him to go 3-1 up there onto the frame number 5. And, well, as we still make the way for the players there, wait for them to make their way back onto the arena. And I think Kyren has done that right now. And so just waiting for John to try and take it back there. Although, I mean, there does seem like there's a bit of a theme going on there with one of the cues from the players. So maybe that's going to have a bit of maintenance there to be done. We've seen that with Wuiza against Xiaogadon in the 3rd quarter final. Let's see if we're going to witness a similar sort of theme here with Kyren Wilson and John Higgins to be sharing the baton between the two of them. Clearly, it's taking a bit of damage there for it to be taken out of the arena. And well, maybe that's why John Higgins realised that he wasn't going to have to stay too much of the time and just spend it all in his chair. So just a bit of a pause in the game. But hopefully it shouldn't take too long for us to resume the action. And by the way, just got me thinking there. Let's have a look how many ranking points does Neil Robertson have, because I'm actually quite interested how much of a jump that was for him when he managed to win the Saudi Arabia Masters. So if you got to those ones, and if you go to the ranking events, so he has got 1.1 million there, so he had 620, well, more or less. I don't think he's won any more of those ranking points. So he would have been, no, he would not have been the world number 4. He would have been around the world number 7. Yeah, something like that. So probably, yeah, as I say, back to the German Master he has to go then. Because, let's have a look. Well, still, players make no way back into the arena. Well, look if that was the case then with the Masters. Or was it Barry Hawkins that Kyren Wilson was up against? No, he was against Barry Hawkins. That was the decider, funnily enough. So let's see where the last meeting in between Wilson and Chop was then. So it's quite hard to follow the ranking during the championship season. Well, it is, but it's only because they change it all the time. Because sometimes you might do really well in one of the tournaments, and then a couple of years later, when you've got all of those points to defend, you're going to lose some of them. And then you can find yourself going from the world number 4 to the world number 8. Just ask Ronnie. That's exactly what happened to him in the 2023 of the UK Championship. Managed to beat Ding Zhuwei. And in the end, of course, this season, losing out in the first round, loses 250,000 worth of ranking points. And all of a sudden, it's quite close to being on the edge there of not making it into the world number 10. Something that you wouldn't actually think to be saying there a couple of years back. So, he's winning. For now, it's a draw, and just waiting for the players to come back onto the arena. I think there was a bit of a problem there with the queue, but that's going to be fixed now. With Wilson and Higgins both making their back onto the table. So, yeah, still unable to find the last meeting between Wilson and Trump, but certainly had to come last season. And let's witness now the frame number 3 to get underway, and it is Kyren Wilson to try and get us started here. He needs a good break-off shot, and he should be fine for him to try and set the pace to this frame, as he's done throughout the majority of the second meeting between the two of them. Being able to produce that clearance of 58 points, and in the end put all the pressure now on John Higgins to try and respond. And, well, hasn't played too good of a break-off shot. In fact, he's probably played horribly wrong. But he still gets the brown to be in between the red. That has gone close to the left middle. And the cue ball that has gone onto the top part of the ball cushion. So I don't think you're going to be able to access this one now. And he might be trying to just take it away from the top part of the table to ensure that Wilson hasn't got that temptation when he comes back to the table either. But he certainly won't be able to get anywhere near the potting angle of things. And clearly, well, he's got his access limited to all the other reds as well. So as much as it was a bit of a shaky break-off from the point of view of that red being so close to the middle, the cue ball control certainly has been on the top level. And there's acknowledgement once again there from Wilson as he makes his way back onto the arena. And at the table, I should say. And just very close to seeing that red. Right next to the yellow pocket, but as the answer still seems to be negative. Probably just looking to find the lower part of the cue ball, try and send it into the main bunch of reds, and with topspin, get it back to the black ball cushion, and hopefully ties up to it. Manages to keep that red just about under the top part of the table. Make the red not being cuttable into the right middle. And gives the turn back once again here to John. And a couple of players, well, both of the players really have got the ability to try and play for this red into the yellow pocket, but because of the way this cue ball is going to be located and taken at the lower part of the table, you have to try and force it with topspin. That way you're going to get it closer to the ball cushion, which at this point in time has got one of those reds way too close to the pocket for you to be taking that risk on. So they just have to try and, well, take the time on this one, really. Making sure that no initiative will be given to the opposition player. And I think John Higgins can't find anywhere near as much of a response there. So he has to try and just roll the cue ball onto the main bunch of reds with a minor effect to be done. Would expect Wilson to try and, well, do a recursion theme here of just trying to repeat the short backwards and forwards there, with Wilson being the one taking the cue ball away from those reds, and Higgins pretty much doing the opposite thing. And for Wilson to try and keep up the momentum, he needs to make sure he sort of prevents Higgins from having the access to that lower part of the cue ball, which I don't think he's managed to do on the first shot straight away. And technically, of course, has left one of those reds to be taken into the left middle, but with so great of distance in between the cue ball and that red, with the white being so close to the black ball cushion, I just think it's probably not the shot for you to take on at the early part of the frame, especially in such early stages of the match. Now just having one more look to see if he's going to be able to... I mean, the way that he's looking at this red, it's almost like if he wants to try it, to take it into the yellow pocket now, and to get the cue ball on the left side cushion. That's what he's tried. And very close to that mighty effort. Is he going to fluke it though? Oh, just about stays out at the table. But has he managed to get the blue to be in between the cue ball and this red? Because it's over the green pocket somehow. I don't know how it finished there. And I don't know how it didn't fluke really, because it was going perfectly along the ball cushion there. And whatever Wilson does, he needs to make sure he's not going to be able to repeat the same mistake of the previous frame and get this one in. Yeah, he was comfortably clear of seeing enough of that red. But where's the cue ball going to finish? And doesn't want it to be right underneath the red. And I think that's exactly the case. Is he able to get through to this blue? It doesn't seem like it's going to be a lot of body language suggestion that he can't get through to it. And you can see just maybe a bit of sign there that he applied to the cue ball and just about able to squeeze the blue in. And that's going to give him a perfect opportunity to get in front for the first time in this match. Now he's 6 points clear. He's got the black to be working with at the lower part of the table. He's got the blue in between. And he's got the ball colours to try and take it if he's going to be overrunning for the blue there. With one more of those reds being quite close to the yellow pocket. Slightly, well, 2 points really on the previous shot from Higgins. Slightly unlucky with the way that that red finished exactly over the green pocket. Despite him playing that shot into the yellow pocket actually. And you can see that Wilson has been the runner-up twice at the Masters. And the last time that was the case was to Sean Murphy, 10-7 last season. I think I'm right in saying that. It was basically 7-6, 7-all. And then Murphy was just able to find the cutting edge in the end. And get him something like 3 frames on the bounce that he's won. And yeah, the thing about the previous shot, it was a bit weird to see John Higgins going for a shot like that. I know that he was always going to leave the cue ball onto the left side cushion, and he could not have predicted that the cue ball is going to stay there, and yet the red is going to travel all the way across the table and finish perfectly over the green pocket, but still not really the type of a shot that you would expect John Higgins to be taking on in the third frame of the final of the Masters here. For now, it is 20 points advantage here for Wilson as he gets a couple of those reds out of the way, and just having a look if he's going to be able to plant his hand just across the pink here. Had a bit of the case of touching. Well, of course, he had the case of his opponent touching the brown there with his cue, with Neil Robertson. And also was on the receiving end of things where Robertson was trying to land a snooker in behind Wilson. Behind the yellow, but of course that didn't work out for him either. Now is he able to get that red into the right corner? Slightly too straight on the black. So just maybe forcing the angle on the cue ball naturally there. And trying to get himself lined up for this red to be taken into the right corner. 28 points is the advantage here for Wilson. He still has got two of those reds to be working with. He's got one on the lower part of the table, one on the upper part of it. And I think if he's going to try and take it for the blue right now, which does seem to be the shot that he's playing for, doesn't want to be straight on this one, so may have to take the yellow instead. Unless he has got a couple of more of those reds that I can't see from this angle. Because he can still try and play for the blue and just roll it into the middle. But that way he's going to have the angle on that red to be taken into the yellow pocket a lot greater. And I think that's exactly what he's checked there. So clearly suggesting that he's not going to have any of those reds to be taken into the lower part of the table. Just forces the way of the cue ball into the main pack. And has he played a good enough shot there? He had all the traction in the world, but it doesn't look like he has got the result. And once again, just unable to see those players being able to finish the frame off in a single visit to the table. And you've got 34 points of an advantage over John Higgins, and yet it doesn't look like he is going to be, well, the favourite going into the next shot, certainly, because of the way that the reds have spread out. He's got a couple of them that he's put on the cushion, two on the blackball cushion, one on the side. And, yeah, I mean, apart from that, he's still very much so many points of those that are going to be up for grabs there. So he didn't manage to do all the damage here to John Higgins on this occasion. And just has to try and play the cue ball onto the side cushion there for it to finish onto the black ball cushion as well. And a break of 34 points, so his second highest of the match. And he's going to have to try and settle for another opportunity to come his way. Potentially has left an opportunity for Higgins, though, to try and go for a shot into the middle. But I think that was a calculated risk from Kyren. And he realised that he was always going to leave something away. But it's a very difficult shot for Higgins to be asking to try and perform ahead of himself. And you can see the camera just suggesting maybe that's going to be the way forward for John here. Because, well, the thing has to be taken into consideration is that is he going to be leaving anything if he takes his shot on? And if the answer is no, and he certainly can get the cue ball into the zone where Wilson won't be able to see any one of those reds, then he's probably worth taking that risk on. And for now, he's gone for a treble. Has he managed to land it? I think he has, and it's a beautiful shot there that John Higgins has played. I don't think he was trying to get himself on the colour too close to it. And, of course, that would have given the initiative away to Kyren Wilson, and he missed his treble, but it was a thing of absolute beauty off the right, off the left side cushion, and perfectly into the centre of the right middle pocket. As I say, slightly too much of a distance for this pink to be called comfortable. But if he's able to just try and nudge this one in into the left middle, surely he's going to have some of those reds to try and play for. He's got the lower red of the entire pack available already. He's gone for it, and he's missed it. Now, where's the cue ball going to finish? I mean, perfectly onto the side cushion. So you can try to take one of those reds along the side cushion there, or you can try and take the red, which John Higgins was playing for previously. Neither of those shots are going to be perfect, and I think it is just going to be taken with the rest shot there for Wilson. Trying to take it along the side cushion, and I think he got too much of the pocket, and just about drops this one in. They show a lot of emotion, but I think he would have been worried there for a split second. Surely he caught the cushion way too quickly there. But the way that he's tried to roll that red into the pocket has allowed, and at the pace of the cloth, just playing to the advantage there of the player. So 34 points advantage restored, but this time around it's going to be just 91 points available at the table. So Wilson surely will have enough of those reds in the main pack. If he's able to get on a couple of them for now, after this pink, I have to feel like this is going to be the shot for the frame. And he's able to do so, but I mean, he's had to sacrifice the positional play on those reds. And what I meant was trying to get across the table and play one of those reds into the right corner. In the end, he's committed to taking the shot into the right middle instead. And he's able to make it though. And he's still nicely on the pink. So, as I say, those two shots certainly should be taking him over the line here. And despite being so close to going 2-0 down, he's probably about to try and, be the player to be leading this match after the opening 3 frames. As I said, he should do. He's not going to be able to try and put the pressure on John Higgins at the business end of this matchup. So right now has to try and do all the early damage, especially with John Higgins not really firing on all cylinders. Seems to be lacking the cutting edge and just the performance that we've seen in the last couple of matches there. 48 points, meanwhile, for Wilson that he's taking on. Another blue to disappear into the right middle. This time around, finally, tries to get rid of the red onto the top part of the table and send the cue ball back down for all the main pack of the reds. And the next one that he takes off should be the one that takes him over the line there, as long as he takes the blue or any colour, which is going to be more expensive than that. I think he's overplayed for the blue here, or underrun for the pink, whichever way you want to look at it, as he was trying to get the cue ball back down the table. Sometimes, of course, difficult to judge the perfect contact of the side cushion there, but I think he got the perfect shot of the pink. And look at the way those reds are spread out across each other and away from each other and across the table beautifully there. Ahead by 60 points right now. And surely Wilson is going to be able to take this red into the right corner, as he now goes 61 points clear with 59 at the table. So it's a snooker needed for now, but with him still having the fine opportunity to try and land the pink into the left corner. It shouldn't be any more than just a couple of seconds that John Higgins technically is still in the battle for this frame, but that's not going to be the case anymore. 67 points over the advantage with 59 remaining at the table. And he's got the fine chance to try and make it 3 frames on the bounce there, Wilson. And take a comfortable lead. Not for the first time in this Masters campaign, but of course at the very important part of this match here. As he goes to check on the score sheet to ensure that he is able to play the shot on the pink without concentrating too much on the putting angle. And I think he was sort of making sure that he could afford a 6 points foul as well, because of the cue ball being sent so close to the right middle. But he is able to get himself on for at least a chance here to take one of those reds away. It's another break of 40 points, so the breaks of 34, 40, and 58 in the opening. Well, second and third frames, he hasn't had any of those in the opening frame there, but it is Kyren Wilson, which is very much back in the hunt, and right now trying to put some pressure on John Higgins at the early stage of this final. It is now Kyren Wilson 2, and John Higgins 1, going into the last frame of the opening mini-session. And despite it still being very much all to play for, it is massive advantage Wilson, as he's able to take that momentum and convert it into 2 frame wins. Very different frames there. Despite him being the underdog in the second frame there, trying to come back from 50 points down, he was able to do so. And in the end, doing pretty much similar sort of thing there in terms of what John Higgins has done in the opening frame, just trying to take those breaks as the opportunities as they come. So the breaks of 34 and 40 points has allowed them to take that 74 points of a lead and, well, ensure that there was no comeback to the table for John Higgins in the competitive manner for this frame number 3. As he's now going to try and take it into the 4th frame. And, well, it has turned into a bit of an important frame now for John Higgins, because that wasn't the case for 2nd or 3rd there, because he managed to win the opening one. But right now, for him to try and make sure he doesn't go 3-1 down, loses 3 frames in the bounce, and gives that opportunity away to maybe just have his opponents win 4 frames somehow on all to come one after another. If he's able to get off to a great start in the second mini session as well, I just think it's got the 2-all scoreline written all over it. But for that to be the case, it has to be a bit of a step up from Higgins' point of view. And he certainly managed to step up from his chair to go for a break-off shot now. He needs this start to be perfect for him. And the start to the final certainly hasn't been so far. He was unable to get over the line for a 2-0 lead. Right now, he's 2-1 down himself. He needs to avoid making that score 3-1, not in his favour. And that's certainly the shot to try and avoid there. I think he was trying to get the cue ball very much into a similar zone to the one that Kyren Wilson got it into the previous frame, but in the end, he got one of those reds very much to the danger zone. And, well, of course, in Wilson's defense, I should say, he was able to get the brown in between the red and the cue ball. Higgins didn't manage to do so right now. And Wilson has got the chance to try and take this red into the middle, but he's unable to convert this chance. Same red is going to be playable. So it probably has worked out better from Higgins' point of view. And just catching the jaw of the pocket there from Wilson. Having the cue ball to bounce away from the black ball cushion for the bow colours. That clearly was the aim there for Wilson in the first place. But for the red to stay on the table, clearly wasn't. Now, Higgins has got the opportunity to try and maybe get this red into the middle, but he misses this shot, which surely has to be one of the worst misses that we've seen across this campaign there from Higgins. I know he missed a couple of sitters in the early frames against Watchalong, but this one has to be one of the worst ones for sure. Tournament pot success 92%, 47 misses out of 564 shots, and for now he's had 8 in the opening 50 shots here. But remember, we were saying just how badly he was playing the opening 3 frames against Watchalong. He had 57% of pot success. And all of a sudden he was able to take that to 92 at the end of the match. Incredible stats there being shown. So certainly not going to be able to write him off until Wilson is over the line. And that won't be until, well, 7 more frames at least there. 6 points for now, once again. Starts with the red and blue combination, as it did in the previous frame. But ball spotted incredibly. 42 for each. Despite Wilson, well, pretty much being the dominant force in the second part of the second frame there. Doing a similar sort of thing in frame number 3 too. And finds a narrow gap there to squeeze the cue ball to get past the red. To ensure that he's going to have the ability to try and take one of those reds into the right corner. Yes, he's got the chance to try and maybe hold the cue ball for the black. Technically with a bit of backspin that he can try and apply. Or maybe the alternative being for him to try and play it into the main bunch of reds. And just hope that the cue ball is going to get out of there. And get himself lined up nicely for the black. He's played a really good shot, to be fair. He's now 15 points advantage. And he should have the ability to try and use a couple of reds that he got himself into for the open play. Although I do actually see the 2 reds that he got into the open play might just be in the way of each other. Certainly from the left part of the table. As he's now looking to make another successful pat flick. And I don't think he's managed to do that now. He's got 22 points advantage. But it probably is going to have to be the end of a break once again there. Match time of pure playing time. Just gone over an hour. And it's 22 points there for Wilson to try and hold on to. And it is going to be quite difficult for him to try and, well, continue the break from here. Especially with the way that he's got those reds to be set up quite far away from the cue ball. And he might just be forced into a safety shot there. And you can't really criticize him for that previous shot because he didn't have too many of those loose reds to try and work with. He had 2 decent contacts there with the pack. And he was unable to get himself any of those reds to be lined up on any of those occasions. Because the first time he's done it, he was playing for the black anyway. And for the second one, he needed to make sure he was on one of those reds. But that's not going to be the case. He's got a safety shot to try and play of some sort. And then just try and push one of those reds. Maybe not even to the side cushion, but just into the open play. Ensure that they're not going to be too close to the corner pocket. And that's not what he's done. And just as I said, ensure that none of them are going to be too close to the right corner pocket, which was always going to be the risk there for him to try and play it off the left side cushion. And one of them has indeed gone too close to the right corner. And you can see that long pot success, 37 out of 50 in the entire tournament so far. 0 out of 4 in the final. Surely this is not going to get any easier than this in terms of getting the pot in. Maybe not so much so when it comes to getting the black into the right part of the table. But he's able to get the cue ball nicely through the gap. And, well, it's a really nice shot there for Higgins to try and get him underway here. As he plays a shot onto the red and get past the black. And right now he has played an absolute beauty of a shot there. Get himself lined up nicely for the blue to be taken. And 21 points of a difference that he's got to try and cover here. Should be able to do that though. He's got so many reds to try and make his way through to sort of be gaining on that 2 frames each after the opening 4 frames. And the number of points scored there for Kyren Wilson in the current frame is probably having an extra confirmation of that. And so the blue is going to be taken there for Higgins. And I think he's managed to find a perfect gap there to have one of those reds right in the middle of this pack to be taken into the right corner. And if he takes it with backspin, should have the way for the cue ball to travel and get himself lined up back for the blue. As he takes it nicely and on for the pink. And, well, wasn't able to get all the traction there on the cue ball. And I don't actually think that taking this pink back on his spot there is going to be the perfect opportunity here for John Higgins. Certainly from his point of view. Because the reason why he wanted to take that red out of the game right in the middle of the pack was, of course, because it was one of the available ones, but also because it just creates a bit more of a gap for the cue ball to try and maybe find his way onto. It gives more freedom for the positional play, and those shots to be flying in without having the risk of running yourself out of position on too many of those occasions. But, of course, there's a different point to it, and that point is going to have to be the fact of, I think the pink is going to be playable into the right corner, and that's going to boost the chances of John Higgins just not having the need to play every single shot there through the blue or the black, and having a shot that he can try and sometimes play for in the middle of all of those reds. So once again, as it has been the story so far in majority of those frames, we have seen those reds to be taking very much a small portion of the table. And right now he's going to have 8 points in between himself and Kyren Wilson. And just looking to try and land on the top side of a blue, which he was unable to do. So he needs to try and send the cue ball across the table to the top part of it. Once again, a 2-cushion escape. Don't know why he's trying to do it from the right-hand side though. Catching the green on the way in. But somehow, with that touch being a minor one, he is able to get the cue ball close enough to the reds and get himself set up for one of those to be taken to the right corner. Yeah, and yeah, he's really lucky with the way that he's managed to get the green closer to the side cushion, and despite that being the case, he's still able to get this cue ball to be lined up for the red. And as he takes it nicely into the corner pocket, just rolls that one in, and he's on a break of 20 points now as it stands. So has got the opportunity to try and maybe play this black into the right corner. Get himself onto 27 points there to be lined up for. And this should give the initiative away to him being very much the favourite to take this frame away there. But remember, I have said this in the second frame, and yet somehow it was Kyren Wilson that was able to be the man on top of that particular encounter. But for now, I think Higgins has managed to play a very important shot there for himself. Putting one of those reds close to the side cushion. Probably not close enough to be calling that red a safe one. And still, that's going to boost the morale slightly. Because the remaining set, well, 8 reds that he's got there. And if you take that red out of the game, put it on the side cushion, Higgins is not going to need it. But of course, if Wilson is to come back to the table anytime soon, he's going to need all of those reds to be taking for him to try and, well, take another frame away there from Higgins. And certainly make it 3 frames on the bounce. For now, just has to try and find the perfect edge there for this rest shot. Get the cue ball as close to that red. And, well, just once again there, a bit of a hesitant on the shot that he's taking on. And, well, Higgins just maybe looking to see if he's going to be able to get past with the cue ball with the other reds and get himself lined up for the blue. And despite that being the case, he still has the opportunity to try and maybe play for the black. And that's exactly what he's done. I think the reason why he didn't want to play in the first place was because of how straight he was always going to finish on his black. And not having the perfect cue ball control of the next shot or so. And yeah, just about able to force the cue ball slightly to the top part of the table, but I still think that he's going to need that side cushion to be used. And that's exactly what he's done, clean as you like. And lovely strike there, once again there, not for the first time that we've seen from John Higgins so far in this match. But could it finally be the only time that he needs to step up to the table and make it the break that counts for him in this frame number 4. Take us away with the perfect draw of 2 frames each, heading into that frame number 5. And now he's on the break of 36 points here. And, trying to get closer to the highest break achieved previously in this matchup of 58 points. Just looking once again there to see, despite him trying to do all the hard work in the early stage of the break, he still has got those 5 reds very close to each other, making the positional play slightly more complicated there. But he is able to force the cue ball far enough there up the table and gets one of those reds out of the way. Beautiful shot there, nicely played. Looks a very minor contact, but he's going to have major consequences there in favour of John Higgins, as he just got himself 2 easier reds to try and make his way through into the right middle and into the right corner there as he takes one. And, well, you get 2 of those out of the game, and all of a sudden, you're probably going to need 1 more red, and you should be good to go there. With himself leaving 43 points at the table at that point. And just trying to ensure that he's able to, well, make this break work for him. He wasn't able to do so in the second frame, and right now he's ahead by 29 points, so remaining 67 of those. So as I say, may have to just take 1 more of the closed reds away, and he should be good to go for the match to be heading to a 2-all draw. And once again, taking a bit of time on all of the shots that he's taken so far, just making sure that he's going to have the perfect outcome on every single one of those shots, and just looking to see maybe just not having the confidence to try and play for the blue because of the previous encounter with the green. Because if he was to try and play for the blue, he would have to try and be on the lower part of it, force the cue ball to try and go onto the ball cushion again. And that just might put a bit too much pressure there for him to try and handle. So in the end, just plays the cue ball there, far enough from the pink to be taken into the left corner without compromising himself massively for the next couple of reds. About to take a 36 points lead. Once again, goes down to hit the shot and just checking everything. I think he's going to have to make contact with those reds, otherwise the cue ball is going to be heading way too close to the corner pocket. Gets the pink in, and he should be alright there. He's not going to have an easy red into the right middle, but he still should be able to be comfortable enough there for him to be taking this red nicely. And as I say, only one more red after this needed. And he should be, well, he certainly is going to be more than 43 points ahead. In fact, he may actually be able to get away with this one. He's 46 points clear right now. As he takes this red, he's going to be around 50 points clear with the next colour. And, well, I did say he was going to be fine, and he wasn't fine for the shot into the right middle. And you can see just catching too much of the back-end jaw. The red was about to drop, but in the end, catching a bit of resistance from the other jaw instead. And it's Kyren Wilson back to the table here. He's going to have to try and force the cue ball onto one of those reds, and he's able to do so. And it's a lovely shot that Wilson has played. This is going to put him right back in the game. And just as I said, this was the story of the second frame. It was about a 35 points lead at that time. And on this occasion, it is surely going to be a bit of the repeat there for Wilson. He's got all the points that he needs there for him to try and turn this frame around once again. He's got 3 reds to try and make his way through. All colours apart from the green are going to be on the spots. But the green should be playable into its own pocket too. Neither of those reds are going to have, going to be any more of an issue than just a normal shot to be played for Wilson. As he takes the third one away. Bit of distance on the shot that he's just taken there. And, well, in the end, he's taken probably one of the more difficult shots there. But he hasn't landed perfectly on the pink. Might have to try and take the red on the upper part of the table right now, which I don't think would have been the plan. You always want to leave that one till last, especially with how close it's going to be to the yellow for you to be taking. Of course, you will still need that 6-colour clearance to be made, and it may have just made his task slightly more difficult. Still going to be perfectly on this red though, as he gets to side cushion shot on the cue ball, and right now just looking to try and play a backspin shot off this red. Gets himself lined up for the brown. Once again, not quite perfect. And he still needs a very good shot to try and get the cue ball right back onto the black ball spot there, because of the red being so close to it. Basically a reverse shot in terms of from the black to the yellow. It is now pretty much from the yellow spot onto the black spot that he has to play. Off the left side. Line seems to be good. Just wants the angle to be minimal there. He doesn't want the cue ball to be going into the black, and he's alright, but he's not perfect. So once again, behind by 18 points. 35 at the table. He should be able to get this red in, but it's where the black is going to go, and he's gone onto the black ball cushion and bounced away there. Should be alright there once again. And it all has to come down to that yellow and green combination. He's going to be perfect on the yellow. Allow himself to try and drop the cue ball in behind the green. And, well, get ever closer to that 3-1 of a gap being the reality. 10 points for now for him to try and chase. Positional success, 86% for Wilson, 83% for John. Something that you don't really see very often there from Higgins. Certainly has been the story of the match so far. Just unable to land perfectly on the crucial couple of reds and the colours in the end of those frames. And right now it's a really nice shot of the yellow that he's played. So it all comes down to this green. Maybe the position on the brown needed. And apart from that, he should be good to go for a 3-1 lead going into the intermission. And he's probably done the most important part of this job, getting the green nicely into the pocket. Now has the cue ball to bounce away and get himself lined up for the brown. So pot success, 87% for Higgins and 92% for Kyren Wilson. And it looked like the brown was drifting wide, but in the end still comes nicely into the pocket. As Wilson finds himself just 1 point behind, so needs the blue and the pink. He's only going to be around 9 points clear of the total points scored across those 4 frames. But in the end, the scoreline that's going to matter is going to be a 3-1 lead, which is only 1 shot away from this pink for him to be the leading man after the opening 4 frames. And he's managed to do it. He'll still take the black on. And once again, the third 50-plus break of the match. And it is going to be Kyren Wilson with a 3-1 lead there on John Higgins. John probably could have been the man to be leading after the opening 4 frames. But in the end, it is going to be the Warrior taking 3 frames on the bounce there, and John Higgins has to try and come up with some sort of solution until it's going to be too much of a damage for him to be taken into a comfortable second session. For now, though, it is 15 minutes of a break, and we'll back for frame number 5 in just a couple of moments' time. Stay tuned in, still more action to be played in between 2 great finalists here at the Alexandra Palace.
Yeah. Lions roaring in the morning sun, searching for a longer day. People feeling like the light has just come. We must never stop the way. Yeah. Birds jumping and I hear my name, grasping into a life. Life is happy but it's so insane. We must merely make a start. Savannah, I'm coming home. Savannah, we'll never be alone. Savannah, the beauty of the world. Savannah, let's all take a roll. Savannah. Lion's gonna come. The birds have just begun. We will always take a stand for the people, for the land. Let's go back to when we were young. For the animals we stand. Let's go back to when trees were swung. Kids across the land. Savannah, I'm coming home. Savannah, we'll never be alone. Savannah.
Right then, everybody, we are back. The intermission is over, and let's see if John Higgins is going to be back, or is he going to be back to the struggles for him, because well, he's lost 3 frames with a bounce. I think that's not for the first time, of course, that's happened to him, but right now it is going to be in the final that he's done that. He's been 3-0 down to Trump. He was a couple of frames behind of Xiaoxington throughout the majority of his matchup in the quarterfinal, but right now, of course, you never want to be behind, because even though you have got that great ability of, coming back every single time, as Wilson Breakoff has, well, could have been better, but as we've seen before, could have been worse as well. Now, then doesn't manage to get the cue ball perfectly on the ball cushion, but that's on the negative side. And on the positives, I don't think he manages to put enough distance there in between all of those reds. And, well, safety success, just to go through those stats there, all of them are going to be dominated slightly by Wilson, but 64% for each for safety play, 92% on pot success for Wilson, 87 of those for John Higgins. When it comes to long pot success, once again, Higgins only making 1 out of those 5 shots. So 20% for him, 50% for Kyren Wilson. Positional success, once again, Wilson has got the upper hand. 88 to Higgins' 83. Although he has played a great safety shot right now, as long as the cue ball's going to slow down. And it's a decent shot there. I wouldn't say it's a great shot now, with the cue ball just, well, seeing the shred there for Wilson, who's got his average break value of 41 points, highest break of 58 points, as you can see, shared by the players, and total points, well, 218 for Wilson, 202 for Higgins, but he will be looking on 219 right now, Wilson. I do have the feeling that he'll be able to make this shred in, and whatever the feeling I got it from, it wasn't correct. He missed it by a slim margin. I just felt that it was going to be the momentum for him to try and carry from the first mini session. In the end, he's caused a bit of chaos on the lower part of the table, but in the end, it doesn't look like all that chaos is actually going to give a chance here to John Higgins to try and maybe take a couple of those raids into the pockets there. I think he has got the ability to try and maybe go for a plant, but so much distance in between those 2 raids, and also there's not going to be any value in taking that plant on anyway, because the cue ball is going to bounce away for that black to be in another position completely. So now just have the chance to try and send this cue ball with a very thin contact on those reds. And in the end, Higgins clearly felt that the thin contact wasn't possible for him without risking getting the cue ball too close to the left corner pocket. And he just decided to get the white on the black ball cushion right now. And well, he's going to have the opportunity now, Wilson, to try and take maybe a couple of those reds into the right middle. Has to be very, very careful with the approach on every single shot right now, because we have seen John Higgins just have that ability to turn around matches in which he's played at already this week at the Alexandra Palace. So Wilson just probably taking the right shot there, and a safety to be played, getting the cue ball to cannon away perfectly and vertically away from all of those reds on the lower part of the table, beyond the bulk line, beyond the D. As it to bounce away from the ball cushion. And, well, he's actually got 6 reds positioned perfectly for a practice table there, underneath the pink diagonal line, which could be close to being a plant, of course, into either right middle or left corner. But in the end, that plant is not going to last a single shot there, because Higgins made some changes to it, getting one of the reds on the lower part of it to cannon onto the black ball cushion and bounce away to the main part of those reds. So you can see, very lengthy acknowledgement there from Wilson. Probably just saying that you can clearly see that he's going to be in trouble for this next couple of seconds. And he does have to be very careful now, Wilson, because of course it's a new mini session. Players had a bit of a chance to maybe practice on some of the shots they were feeling. They needed a bit of help on. So, well, Wilson certainly will need a bit of hands, because I don't think he's going to be able to get the thin of contacts on a couple of those reds. So in the end, he has to try and make it through a very thin gap to get the cue ball to go onto the black ball cushion. That's what he's tried. And, well, in the end, that's not what he's tried. He was just trying to roll the cue ball onto those reds. Probably just about played the shot well enough for Higgins not to be able to access any of those reds to the right corner. So that's exactly what John is looking at right now. And you can see a little tap on the table from his point of view now. So there is a shot into the middle pocket, which is going to be haunting and taunting for John Higgins for now, because of the one that he's missed, basically costing him the 4th frame. He has got the opportunity to try and maybe get this one closer to the right middle and get the cue ball to bounce away there. Or you can try and get the cue ball perfectly into the right middle. Certainly wasn't a plan there for Higgins, but that was the reality. 4 points given away to Wilson, but I'd probably say he'd rather do that than have the cue ball to bounce from the back end jaw there and back into the lower part of the table. So despite him giving up a long shot opportunity to Kyren Wilson, at least he doesn't give any guarantees away to his opponent. So far, long pot success compromised slightly by the opening shot that he's had in the 5th frame. And right now it's 40%. Is it going to go higher or lower? It is going to go lower, so 33% it will be now. And John Higgins has got another chance to get himself back in the rhythm. And the long pot success has been a bit of an Achilles heel for both of the players, certainly for Higgins. And apart from that late red that he managed to get in the 4th frame, his record was 0 out of 4. Last pot time is 6.5 minutes there for any one of the players. And, well, I don't really understand that, to be fair. 6.5 minutes, that has to be without the intermission. So clearly just 6.5 minutes of frame time without us having the pot. So John Higgins is going to have the chance to try and take this red into the green pocket, have the cue ball to bounce away from the bowl cushion and get himself set up for a couple of those bowl colours to choose from. So then if he has got the white to cannon into the open play, he should have the ability to try and maybe get the cue ball down the table with the next shot there. But for that to be the case, he needs to be lined up perfectly on the yellow or green. And, well, don't think he's going to have the perfect angle on either one of those two. He should have the ability to send the cue ball to the left side cushion there from the green. But whether he's going to be able to get himself nicely on the red is going to be another matter. You can see average shot time, 32 seconds in the final. And overall in the tournament, 28 seconds. Because you can understand why. It's taken a couple of extra seconds of those in the final stage of the tournament. So for now, just looking to see if he's going to have the chance to try and take this green onto the top part of the table. And well, if he gets this one in, he should have the ability to just play it on the cue ball side to the extent that topspin should get the cue ball down the table here. But has he overplayed it? I think he has. And in the end, he should have a problem now with 4 points on the break there. Of course, 4 points of cue ball going in for Wilson. Right now, he should be 4 points each. And back to the safety things we go. And didn't see too many of those in the opening 4 frames, despite the time of 4 frames and the intermission being way over 2 hours. So just seeing if there's going to be a way there for Higgins to try and get the cue ball to the top part of the table. I don't think we're going to be anywhere near going for 9 frames. I think it's going to be 8 or 7 at this moment in time. Especially to just how slow the frame to the start to the frame number 5 has been so far. Now then, 4 points each. Positional success, 88% for Wilson and only 82% for John Higgins. So, been running himself out of positions after being able to get the pot in. So if you're going to try and get this red with a long shot, I mean, surely he's not going to try and go for 3 on the bounce there. And despite missing the previous 2, he's still very much back in the game here. In terms of it being a 50-50 frame as it stands. Of course, Wilson was heading into this match as a higher seeded player. based on the ranking. And he had around 166 in terms of the odds for him to be the champion, and 2.2 for John Higgins to try and take this final. But in the end, I think that number is going to decrease there from Wilson's point of view, as he's now has got the upper hand and 2-frame advantage in relation to John Higgins. And just looking to see if he's left anything here to John, because just committed to getting the cue ball to be as close as possible to the right part of the table, in the right corner of it. I mean, he has left him a chance. And let's see if Higgins is going to try and go for it. He will. And surely that was a mistake there from Wilson to even try and play the shot in the manner that he did. You can't trust John Higgins to try and miss that shot. And he certainly did the right thing by going for that red in the end and gets himself perfectly lined up for the blue. So just once again trying to get himself over the finish line. He's been really close in the frames number 4 and, well, 2 I think it was. And in the end, Wilson winning 2 of those frames there, getting himself 2 frames on the bounce. Higgins has got a very difficult position to make his way through, although, because of the way the reds are positioned, and also just not the way the reds are positioned, but the way the black is situated right now. The pink is going to be limited in terms of the pockets that he goes to. I think right now only the right middle may be available, but for the black, it's difficult to get on it from the left part of the table to try and take it into the right corner, but pretty much impossible. From this angle, certainly it would look like for it to be taken into the left corner either. And that's why Higgins tried to play for the blue. And he's still going to be on this blue, but he can't take it into the middle now. He has to try and take it into the green pocket here. So he got a couple of those reds to spread across each other. Now 7 points advantage that John Higgins has got to his name. And he should have the ability to try and maybe play a bit of backspin on the cue ball, try and slow it down, and with a minor effect of bringing it down the table, it should still be nicely lined up on one of those reds to be taken into the right corner. And so he does. But I think he's overplayed for it slightly. Once again, just leaving the cue ball too close to the side cushion has been a bit of a struggle for him in the opening couple of frames. But no, of course, at the same time, he was able to get out of those shots by playing the recovery shot straight after it. But right now, this is a really nasty couple of options that he's got ahead of himself. He's got a shot into the middle, which probably is going to be one of the easiest ones. But that one doesn't guarantee a positional play on the pink. And just once again looking to see if he's going to have the ability to try and get the red into the right corner. He's gone for it, and he's made it beautifully into the heart of the pocket, but the cannon of those reds has played against him, and he's going to get the cue ball perfectly on the ball cushion. So, very unfortunate there. He actually looked like he was going to get through a handful of the difficult reds and get himself off to a good cushion at that point. But right now it is going to be 13 points, both of them break, and of the advantage that he has over Kyren Wilson. And he's going to have to be back to Kyren to try and respond. He's going to be able to get the cue ball to bounce away there from the yellow and bring it down nicely for the ball cushion once again. It's a really nice safety shot there that Higgins has played. And basically got the yellow and the cue ball to be alongside each other onto their ball cushion perfectly. So you can see it's going to have 13 points advantage. Of course, not to try and hold on to, but to try to build on. With still both of the players having the luxury of seeing 115 points ahead of themselves at the table. But the problem is, for both of them, is that they still have to try and land a long shot at this moment in time to try and get themselves started on the next chance. And it looks like it is going to be the opening opportunity that will go the way of John Higgins. Let's see if he's going to try and take this chance, though. Because the way that Wilson was trying to play the previous shot, basically get the black available into the left corner as well, while still not really compromising himself massively on the cue ball. But he has got a couple of those reds to get too close to the left corner. And, well, as I thought, actually, Higgins refusing that shot. He doesn't seem to be a fan of just send the cue ball into the nowhere zone ever, whether it's going to be the first round or, of course, the 5th frame of the final of the Triple Crown event. And in the end, just goes for a cross double. Nicely played there. Really nicely judged on the pace of their white as well. And gets the white to try and put a bit of distance there in between the cue ball and those reds. So match time 90 minutes of the actual play time. More than 2 hours since the match actually got underway. As, well, very much looking forward to see if Wilson is going to be the first player to get himself up and running for the start of the 5th frame here. Average frame time just under 19 minutes. I think that's going to go wrong there for Wilson. And is he going to leave a red out for Higgins? Well, I mean, I think he has gone wrong, but I think he was really lucky there. I can't really believe that he was playing for that shot. For the cue ball, it's perfect, by the way. I'm saying the cue ball is perfect, but the way that he got those reds, cannon, onto the top part of the table, surely he got lucky with that one. And it was very close to a double kiss as well on the way up the table there from the cue ball and the red. But in the end, they managed to miss each other. And, well, it's Wilson now with the advantage, because the same red has to be treated very carefully from Higgins' point of view. And therefore, he has to ensure that when he gets the cue ball up the table, he's going to try and leave it in the position where it's not going to be possible there from one of those reds. So, important shot coming up for Higgins. Once again, he has got the ability to try and take this red into the left corner, but I still don't think that he's going to be thinking that he's going to be worth it at this stage. And he's played a bad shot though. And he cannoned one of those reds onto the black ball cushion. Got one of those reds to cannon away from it. And yeah, Wilson didn't get lucky with the previous one. But he probably got slightly unlucky now with the way that he's lined up for this red. 16.5 minutes since his last spot time. Of course, making that clearance in the 4th frame. For it to be made a 3rd 50+ break. And right now, just looking to see if he's going to have the opportunity to try. And, well, he needs to get this red in, but he's going to have the cue ball to bounce onto the black. And that's why he's gone for another red, the more difficult one, to try and ensure he was going to have the opportunity to get himself on the blue. He's perfect on the blue, but he hasn't managed to get the red in. And the time since the last pot time is going to be increasing there for him for a couple of moments' time. Now, has he left anything easy for John Higgins? He has been the king of the doubles. He's made one yesterday against Judd Trump in the deciding point of the 10th frame. He's made the treble today, but he doesn't manage to take the double onto the left middle. But what a shot that he's played anyway, covering all of the left-hand side of the table with the contact in behind the brown. Still don't think he'll be too happy with that one, because the 3 reds that Wilson has got available to himself, he should be able to get the cue ball to bounce away from the black ball cushion nicely, as long as he misses the green. Has got a minor contact, and that might actually be enough there for Higgins to go for this red now. Hasn't been too eager to go for those long shots, but I think the red next to the left corner might just be about close enough for him to change that stat. And try and go for it right here, right now. See if that's going to be the case, though. Needs to cue the positional play perfectly, because the 13-point advantage that he's got is going to be absolutely nothing. And he's missed it by margin. Has he left anything again? I don't think he has. So maybe a rest shot into the left corner may be available there for Wilson, but don't really think that's going to be the case. And long pot success. You can see he's had 5 misses already today. And he had 13 overall in the entire tournament, including those 5. And yeah, Kyren just asking for a rest in the end, just clearly making his mind up to try and go for the attacking display. See if he's going to try and stick to the approach. Of course, the problem that Wilson has got up ahead of himself, and probably same has to go for Higgins, is that players have got 3 reds, or 2.5 reds, I would say, to try and work with. And unless you do that with the black, you're not really gaining any of those points. So you have to try and give well, some adjustments there to the position. For now, rest spot success in the final. 4 out of 4 there for him. And 36 out of 40 in the entire tournament. Brilliant shot there, made by Wilson in terms of getting that red in. Let's see if he's going to be lined up for the green, because he is going to be on the yellow. And it's all about if he's got the ability to try and play this green into the left middle with loads of topspin. Get himself lined up for that red to be taken into the green pocket for good measure. Now then, play the shot with, as I say, a bit of power. I think, well, is he going to be in? I don't think he will be. I think he's going to bounce away there. And it does bounce away from the cushion. From the jaw, I should say. But it is once again just a single point scored by Wilson. And back to Higgins it goes. Because once again, as I say, it's not going to be too costly at this stage for Kyren Wilson, because John Higgins only has 2 of those reds available to his name. And he tries to take the one closer to the cue ball into the green pocket. This room will take another hour as 9 reds are on cushion. He may do, but well, this is the final. You don't really have anything to try and hurry up for. I'll be here. We've got around 3 more of those after this one. And listen, as I say, we've seen 4 great attacking frames in the majority of them. And well, Higgins had a word to say about that one. And, well, he manages to get 3 of those into the open play for a split second. And then the other 2 still go onto the cushion. So Higgins clearly doesn't want to waste another hour here. And he's the one behind, remember. So he has to be trying to make things happen. And 16 points advantage. 99 still at the table. So that number of the reds available is going to be brought down one way or another there. And Higgins just has to make sure he's got any sort of points advantage to try and speak for that. I actually do think it will be another 20-25 minutes, and we should be through this frame. And as long as John Higgins is going to be able to win it, if it's going to have to be Kyren Wilson, then we could be here for more than an hour, really. 17 points advantage for John Higgins. And of course, the problem with those frames for someone like Kyren is that it's very difficult to try and find a comeback from you know, any sort of points difference there. But when you've got, I don't know, 20, 30 points behind, and you've got so many of those reds to be on the cushion, it is extra difficult for the player that is behind, because he's going to have to try and take risks, try and get those reds to be away from the cushions, and sometimes just compromising himself on either the positional play or sometimes the bot success as well. But for now it is John Higgins very much trying to do something about that advantage. He's ahead by 22 points. He's got another red available. And he might be able to squeeze the red along the black ball cushion to try and make that advantage something close to 35 points or so. Is he now about to take the red into the right corner? Pushes the pink out of play, which, I mean, probably at this stage will be more of an advantage to him. As I say, that 23 points advantage may just about be enough there for him to try and play this game to the slow level. Because when you've got 23 points advantage at this stage, you're going to have all of those reds basically needed there for Kyren Wilson. He just needs the black to go into the right corner. Then you have the red to be taken into the left corner as well. But wow, I mean, he was trying to take all the pace away from the cue ball. And he just had the feeling, because he was looking at that one quite nervously, the black stays out of the pocket. And in the end, it is going to be same red available for Kyren Wilson. Well, let's test the theory, because I said that 23 points advantage may just be about enough there for Higgins to try and slow the game down and put Wilson under a bit of pressure in terms of forcing him to be the player who tries to make changes to those reds. And he's managed to play 2 really good shots there. The black was an easy prey, but in the end, he manages to get the 2 reds separated away from each other after taking the one along the black ball cushion. So he's got one of those. So all of a sudden, that 23 points advantage is going to be reduced to around 10 points. And it's going to leave both of the players in a similar sort of scenario there. 15 points is going to be something to separate them for now. And he has got the ability to try and maybe be level on points there. If he takes 2 of those reds with the black, he's managed to be slightly higher than the black here, which I think is going to be an advantage here for Wilson. And we have managed to make our way through the opening 4 of the compromised reds. We still have 4 more on the cushions on the side. And we have 1 more for Kyren to try and potentially make his way through. But once again, similar mistake to the one that John Higgins has made. Trying to sacrifice too much of the angle on the black and missing the black in the end. Whilst trying to hold the cue ball for these red to be taken along the blackboard cushion. And Wilson knew as soon as he hit that one that he wasn't going to make this red. And it's a very important shot now for John Higgins. If he takes this one on there, of course, it's not a guarantee. He's got that 14 points advantage, which he'll be able to bring somewhat close to 23 points that he's going to have. And by the way, I think that Wilson would have taken this red anyway. And it's quite surprising to see that Higgins hasn't gone for it. And that's why, because he thought he has seen a double and he's able to do all the damage to Wilson once again here. And it's a beautiful double that you can see. And 15 points is going to be the advantage here for Higgins. And remember, if he does manage to get the black with, well, a couple of times there, with 1 more red to be taken along the blackboard cushion. What the heck? Well, for missing the black to the same right corner pocket. Well, wait for it. You haven't seen the double yet. It was a thing of absolute beauty there from Higgins. And he's not going to be able to miss this black here. So I think he would have liked to get the cue ball slightly closer to the red though. And I think the reason why both of them missed the black to the same pocket is because they were both trying to do the same thing there. Was to try and sacrifice a bit of the potting angle to make sure that the position wasn't going to be somewhat perfect onto the next red. So of course Higgins didn't have to do this on the previous shot on the black because he basically was in the pocket. And well, too much of the back end you're caught there and the red stays out. So once again, it hasn't been one of those fluent and free-flowing frames so far. But Higgins has got that 22 points advantage. He would have loved to take it to around 30 points though. And leave 51 at the table. Right now it is 22. And 59 at the table. With 4 of those reds still being in action. And Wilson just making sure that he's got everything under control in terms of just having those reds to be separated there from the cue ball. Scrappy, both missing shot. Yes, true. That is true. And you're going to have to try and fight your way through those frames. You're not always going to be perfect. But this is what true champions do. Sometimes when they don't play well, especially when it comes to the finals. Still, yeah, you feel like, to be fair, whoever wins this frame is going to have a great chance of being the winner of the entire first session. Of course, it will be quite a challenging thing there from Higgins' point of view, because you'll take basically for him to win 4 frames on the bounce. At least try to go into the second session with it being 4 frames each. That's certainly going to be a realistic outcome there for him. And yeah, Wilson just trying to separate the cue ball and the red, putting them diagonally across the table there and separated away from each other. And John Higgins responds with basically a cross double and nicely taken there. I think he's going to have the left-hand side of the table covered up and that lonely red not to be visible from Kyren's point of view. So he's got 3 of those on the right side cushion to try and do something with. And let's see if he's going to be able to do so. No, he's just going to try and roll the cue ball onto them from behind. So as much as I actually thought he was going to be the more proactive player, trying to separate those reds away from each other, he's actually left a potential double opportunity here for Higgins. Let's see if John is going to be tempted to take this one on. And from one of the worst doublers in the game, being from Scotland, of Stephen Hendry, could we see the start of something special from his doubles career there, John Higgins. I'm watching live on cable TV in Malaysia. There you go. And right now, just having a look. He's going to have the ability to try and go for this double without sacrificing too much of the positional play as well. Going to be very important there from his point of view. And, well, maybe just push one of those reds closer to the side cushion and just, well, not worry about the cue ball placement at all. You are so fortunate. Yeah, cable TV is not really a thing now in the UK. I think they had a Sky Q, but it's no longer going to be the case for here to try and buy. So you have to try and do it off the streaming services. And, well, Kyren Wilson now has got the opportunity to try and get this red into the left corner. He doesn't have a lot to sacrifice, and he's gone for it, and he's made it with a brilliant long shot there. The problem has to be the fact of the cue ball going all the way to the bold cushion there, which is great for a safety play. Not so much when you take that red in, and don't think that he's going to have the ability to try and get anywhere near those 3 reds sitting on the side cushion for now. And therefore has to try and do something about those 3 right here, right now. But maybe just go for 2 points to be scored on the yellow. And, well, just trying to land the snooker in the end. So, well, not even a snooker, I'd say. Just forcing John Higgins to try and play a safety shot himself. So, a bit of a weird one. But he should be able to just play a little cross double shot. Get the cue ball to bounce away from the right cushion. And get himself to be lined up for the top part of the table here. And nicely played. And the cue ball avoids the double kiss on any of those reds on its way back up the table. And basically brings one of the reds into the play for a split second. But then it finishes pretty much straight onto the black ball cushion there. So let's see what Wilson will try and do. Of course, he's going to be slightly interested in terms of keeping those reds in the open play, but also having to make sure that he plays those safety shots to the great extent of his own. And he's played another beauty, even though he's compromised the red, which he managed to get in the open play previously. He has put John Higgins under a little bit of scrutiny now to try and make his way out of this position. He's got the cue ball to try and be sent from the side cushion now, surely. I don't think there's a way that he can bounce the white off the black ball cushion here. Safety success, 75% for Wilson, 70% for John Higgins. So let's see how his snooker escape success is going to be. Looks to be pretty good, because as long as he hits the shot with a minor bit of power, he should be able to cover up all of those options there for Wilson. Has he managed to do so? I think he has. I think for that red to be available into the left, into the right corner, you needed to get the cue ball slightly, well, with more traction there, which of course was something that Higgins wasn't interested in. And in the end, he's played the shot really nicely there. Same probably can't be said about Wilson on this occasion, though. Remember, he is 21 points down, so he can't afford to have Higgins take all of those 3 reds, because he only needs one more colour out of those. And for Wilson's point of view, he's got the pink to be on the side cushion, and he has got those 2 reds to try and do something with. For now, surely it is going to be a long shot attempt. Number 6 from Higgins' point of view. And I'm not sure if it was a long shot attempt, because he played with very little power, and also he missed it by a mile. And paying about £50 a month, can watch most major sports like tennis, football and snooker, also Netflix and Asian dramas. Yes, so it's quite good about it, because I knew that you have a similar sort of thing in... I don't think it was China, I think it was Poland. And I think it was one more country which I'm thinking about. It wasn't Malaysia. I'm just trying to... It was one of the Asian countries that you basically pay a subscription fee, and you can watch the majority of the sports that you can actually see on the TV. And just can't think of whichever country that was. But it's quite good, because in the UK you can't watch all the matches every single time. And yet you have got all the different subscriptions for you to try and pay. But for now, Wilson may have to pay for his mistake. And it can finally be time for Higgins to try and get that long pot success higher up than 17%. Is he able to do so? Just about. But he gets that red into the right corner and pushes the pink slightly closer to the side cushion. But he should still be alright to be taking the blue on. Fortunately, they don't show darts. Well, you can't have it always. And... tournament long pot success now 68% for Higgins, so still has taken a massive hit since around 76, I think we've seen at the early start of this match. Now then, he needs to focus on trying to get the cue ball to slow down, and I don't think he's played it well enough. The cue ball will slow down just about it in time there for this red to be potable, but I mean, he's got 28 points, 27 I should say, in between himself and his opponent. He's got 43 remaining and in play. And right now, it's only been 13 minutes since I actually said this frame could go on for 25 minutes if Higgins is to win it. Right now, it could be another 2 or 3 minutes, and it will be John Higgins very much at the top once again here, at least of this particular frame, getting the gap down to just 1 frame in this match. And, well, looking to try and put the pressure back onto Kyren Wilson there, because he has been coming into this frame, trying to get into a 4-1 of a lead. You can see frame time over 35 minutes, and still at least 3 more shots needed for John Higgins to be over the line. He takes the first one really well, to be fair. He gets the red into the right corner. Now then, it's 28 points advantage with 35 at the table. We're going to watch live. Well, it depends where you're watching from. So TNT Sports, WST Play, and BBC in the UK. I think you can try and do that too. And meanwhile, John Higgins gets the cue ball to bounce away off the side cushion, getting himself nicely lined up for this red to be taken. And of course, this is going to be frame ball. Frame ball there for John Higgins. He's got 35 points remaining. That will go down to 27. And the gap will increase from 31 to 32 points, which will lead Kyren Wilson needing 2 snookers to try and find on 6 remaining colours. All bandit sovereigns in it. Well, so he should be. You know, he's trying his best to give the fans entertainment. But as I say, I think in the early session, you want to try and keep it as close as possible, especially when you haven't got the clear favourite. And I think, especially with him, John Higgins being slight underdog going into the first frame. You always want to see someone like John, the legend of the game, to try and win a couple of those frames. And also just not allow Wilson to be running away with it, as he probably has just done. Getting a really nice shot on the red to be taken into the right corner. And right now it is going to be 3-2 of a deficit for him to try and climb back from. And this yellow has to be taken into its own pocket right now as well, just to ensure that Wilson won't be coming back to the table. So 18 points is going to be the break there for John Higgins. So he can't quite make it a break of 50 plus here, but he should still be able to get himself a nice little 40 points clearance if he's somehow able to get the pink off the side cushion. And just, well, maybe give us a bit of an insight of what it would have been if Kyren Wilson did have the chance and the ability to go for the total clearance. For now, Higgins gets the brown in nicely into the green pocket. So 46 points is the advantage, because it ain't going to matter at this stage. Just purely getting a bit of confidence and a bit of table time for himself. And very rarely you see that mistake from the players, because it didn't matter at this stage, but not enough power on the cue ball to get the pink far enough the side cushion. And he's just going to try and take it into the green pocket, which was always going to be mission impossible there. So the break off 30 points will be enough there for John Higgins to be taking this frame away there from Kyren Wilson. It is now Kyren Wilson 3, John Higgins 2. And if you bear with me, just going to go and check something because the stream seems to be lagging there. We'll be back in just 2 minutes, so it should be in time for the next frame to begin. Right then, back to it. Sorry about that. So it was just a bit of a stream refresh and now it's working better. Seems to have got a lot of buffering on the previous frame, but Higgins will win scrappy frames. I mean, that is a good point, but I also think that Wilson was having that ability to try and do similar sort of thing there against the likes of Robertson and, you know, against Weezer in the... Well, I'm not really going to say against Weezer in the semi-final because I haven't watched all of those frames, but it didn't really seem like there were a lot of scrappy frames, and the ones that I can think about, to be fair, they were taken by Weezer, but once again, I just don't think that John Higgins is going to be able to try and maintain that form. I mean, if he was able to do so, he wouldn't have to wait for a Triple Crown win for the first time since 2011. I just think that there is going to have to be a drop-off at some point, and let's see if he's going to be able to maintain all of this sort of great comeback power that he's had in the previous couple of matches. You know, he's had that against Watchalong. He's managed to do that against Xiaoxington. Is he going to be able to make it 3 out of 3 there? Because remember, sometimes when you've got the most difficult part to the final and you get there in the end, it can be quite tricky for you to try and make it. As John Higgins makes his way back onto the arena. And we're about to get the 6th frame underway. This is still not going to be the final one, but the 7th one might be, with us going way over 2.5 hours. So just waiting to see. And whose turn it is going to be? I think it is going to be John Higgins this time around. I think it was Wilson's break off last time. And it is going to be John Higgins. So he's going to be breaking off for the even ones. You could have remembered that for the previous 5 occasions. Now then, Higgins is ready. Let's see if he's going to be ready for a 3-all draw. He had the chances of doing that against Jump. He had to wait for a couple of more of those occasions. But in the end, can he try and make it in the final? And to make this final as close as it possibly can be. 3 frames each after this first 6 frames. Give anyone a chance to be the winner come the end of the second session. By the way, I'm going to say this one. I am going to predict a decider straight away. Never can predict one. But for this match, I just have a feeling that this is going to be very evenly matched there. And Wilson might say, not today, because of a brilliant long shot that he just played. I think this time around, the cue ball is going to slow down before it reaches the brown. What is the next tournament? German Masters. Yeah, so you've got the Championship League with the Invitational, but basically it is going to be the German Masters. And hopefully we're going to see Ronnie back in the action. I think there's going to be slightly opportunistic and naive, but as long as he hasn't withdrawn, there's always a chance. And he did say in that York interview at the Barbican that he was always going to try and participate at the German Masters in particular, ahead of the World Championship, of course, which probably is the only tournament that he's guaranteed to turn up for, apart from maybe someone like UK Championship, which he hasn't played too great either for the last couple of seasons, getting knocked out in the opening round by Barry Hawkins and Joey Long. Both of those matches, I think, were taken to a decider. No, I think it was 6-4 against Joey Long, so not quite a decider. And first round losses for him. Of course, didn't play at the Masters since his last win. Match score profile, 30 breaks, 30 plus breaks, 4 of those for Kyren Wilson, as he's gone for a risky shot, and he got really unlucky with that one. We'll come back to all the points that he scored in a minute, because he's got the blue. He's had a perfect contact on all of those reds, but he's had one of them to go too close to the pocket and drop in. So a break of 6 points, foul, or 5 points given away. And this is going to be the opportunity there to Higgins, despite it being a really clean contact on all of those reds. Kyren didn't really get too many of those in open play, but Higgins has got one for the time being to try and get himself started with. So just tries to roll this one in. And the black is available. The pink is somewhat available for the first time, but I don't think it is going to be once it gets respotted there. Clearly going to be surrounded from the lower part of it, from all the reds, making the shots into the middle, or especially in the corner pockets, to be pretty much impossible there. And Higgins is going to try and make it into the main bunch. Has he managed to play this shot well enough? I think he has, you know. I think this is going to be a real chance here for Higgins, especially if he can get through to the top part of the table. He's got one of those reds sitting and waiting at the yellow pocket. And yeah, that's what he's looking at right now. Maybe just try, put a bit of distance in between the cue ball and all of those reds for just a single shot there. And then from the ball colours, try and get the cue ball to be returned to the lower part of the table. I mean, it does have the red to be taken to the left part of it, but I think he'll compromise himself massively on the next colour. The fact that he hasn't taken that red close to the yellow pocket probably suggests that he can't see it. And, well, this red to the left corner is probably going to have to be his only option. He's got the red into the middle as well, but I just don't think that is going to do the work for him. And, well, is he trying to just play a safe shot out of this? I'm surprised by that, because he's basically said to Kyren, I'm happy for you to try and attempt this red into the left corner. And let's see. Sullivan won't rest until we win another World Championship when he'll be the sole record holder. I mean, I agree with that. And I think that if you got closer in 2023, you would have been able to do so against Selby. But, I mean, can he really try and do it? He needs to try and get the best form that he's had this season in the Saudi. Well, he had spells against Lisowski and Joe. And I think only in that case scenario. I mean, he was the semi-finalist last season. He was playing horrible. And we agree on the re-rack. So I think that's going to get us through this nervy start to the 6th frame. So just reset the points to 0. So once again, it is Kyren Wilson that leads by 3 frames to 2. And yeah, it was a weird one because as soon as John Higgins leaves you with a clear-cut chance of getting those reds into the left corner, but you can't get the position out of it. I think it's the only right decision there for the players to agree on the re-rack. And we are now going to see another start to this frame number 6. Of course, all the while, this is taking on. I think we still don't have the risk of this frame being the last one, but we may do that with frame number 7. Because you very rarely see that happening in the final. And just checking to ensure that sometimes, of course, you know, we've seen weirder things happen. And frame number 6 being the final frame of the session is not going to be the case here. And we have to wait for that to be the case in the next frame. For now, it is take 2. And once again, John Higgins breaking off. And I think he managed to break off nicer this time around. Remember that he's left a long shot available to Wilson on the previous time that he's done that. And that was to the left corner. And despite Wilson being lined up perfectly on the ball colours, he still wasn't able to make any further progress with that. So just looking to see if he's got the opportunity to try and take the red into the right corner this time around. Don't think Rocky will win another world title. Well, you say you won't rest until we win another title, but I don't think you will. I don't think you will, because I just think there's going to be too much competition for him on the snooker tour. We've seen, 14 winners of, 14 different winners of all the ranking events now, starting with last season's Xiaoxing at the World Championship. And now we're at the Masters with still having the different winner to the ranking event, because remember, Wilson managed to win Shanghai Masters, but that was an invitational one. John Higgins hasn't done so far in this season, so we are going to have the new winner of the ranking event. And you know, Xiaoxing, Stephen Maguire, Neil Robertson, Joey Long, Sean Murphy, Mark Williams, Jack Lisowski, and Chris Wakelin. Alfie Burden train is going to continue to the Masters. Let's see which one is it going to be. Ooh, Wilson gone for a risky long shot into the right corner. And I think finally he's given something away here to Higgins. It's rare to see him now. It is, unfortunately. And very much the reason why I actually like snooker from the start of it. And the first ever match to be watching as a world championship in 2014 was a great pleasure. It was a bit sad that Selby's beating him to it, but still was very much a glimpse of things to come in 2016 and 17. Very much what I feel like were the prime years of Ronnie, playing super well. And getting himself to try and challenge for, well, the 6th and 7th crown in 2020 and 2022 against Stuart Chubb and Kyren Wilson there. As I thought that Higgins is going to be able to get this red into the left corner, but he had other thoughts about it. Trying to play with power in the end to try and get himself lined up for this blue to be taken. And right now it seems like as the game has taken a step backwards there in terms of the pure quality. And let's see on who's of the players is going to be the first one to react. And try and maybe put those struggles behind them. But now Wilson just going for a save shot. Getting the cue ball to bounce away to the top part of it once again. And just looking to see if it is going to be a chance here for Higgins to try and maybe put a bit of distance in between those two reds. And get himself in with a chance here to put the cue ball closer to the green pocket, which I think is going to have to be the target area for him to try and go for. He's going to have to try and do it on the left-hand side, though. He's clearly unable to do so from the right. But if he does that, he's going to be risky of pushing one of those reds to the corner. Oh, I don't like that. And that's exactly what happened there. You could just see with the way that he's taken so much of the side of the red that he was always going to lead at least one of those reds over the corner pocket. But he may have the blue in the way of the cue ball. That's what Wilson is looking at. And well, he certainly has to take this red. Whether he can take it in a straight line, no, he can't do that. So he needs to swerve around the blue. And this makes the shot risky, but he's taken it really well. Is he going to be on the colour? And, well, I don't think he is. I think he somehow managed to find the only spot on that side of the table where he couldn't see either pink or blue there. And, well, I mean, did you take the brown at this stage? And probably no is the answer, because Wilson's smiling about it, clearly saying that of all the places for the cue ball to finish, he has actually finished there. And just looking to see if he's going to have the ability to try and plan the cue ball into the nice enough position to put all the pressure on the safety battle. Once again, back to John Higgins. But I think another thing that you have to mention there has to be Wilson's inability to try and get himself on the colours. I mean, it's fine when it happens once or twice there, but it's 4 out of 5 there that he's made long shots, and he didn't actually finish on any of the colours. He's done that on the previous version of the 6th frame, before a re-rack, and he got himself onto the brown, but I think that was the only time where he got himself a long shot, and he still was able to continue the play. And apart from that, it just shows that he gets majority of his chances from mistakes there from John Higgins, and well, he doesn't really seems to have the need to work super hard for it so far. For now, just having a look if he's going to have a chance to get one of those reds to be sent onto the cushion. And put the cue ball to the top part of the table now. And well, he has got the ability to try and do so with the cross double. But once again, now on the other side of the table, he puts one of those reds close to the pocket. Of course, he's not going to have the black available, so this might turn into another slow frame here. Because the black is going to be unavailable for now. The pink is only possible into the left corner. And Wilson clearly is very eager to try and go for this red and finally make it on the collar. And he's unable to make the red. Would not have been on the collar anyway, I'll tell you that for free. And the same red should be playable into the right middle, but that might give the edge to Higgins right now, because, well, I mean, once again, it's going to be very difficult for him to try and land on the positional play as well. So, has to work for it, but he should be taking this red into the right middle. To land cue ball in no man's land is bad for the remainder of the match. Well, it is, but for you to basically to try and do something about the safety battle, you never know which variation of those reds you're going to get into, and match time has just gone over 2 hours of pure playing time. It's almost 3 hours since it started, and let's see. I don't think we're going to be forced to try and go over the sort of something like 4-hour limit. So I think when we approach 5 o'clock, it's going to have to be the last frame that we play. May still turn out to be the next one, you know, and you know, especially with the way that it's taken us time to get through the 5th frame, then I've taken a lot of time to get through the 6th frame, which never actually happens, and we had to go back to the re-rack. Right now we've got 14 reds, all in a very bad position there. And it's both players trying to do something about it, but neither so far has been successful in their attempts. So just the cue ball to be sent with a minor contact, and a decent effort there from Wilson, because he is able to get the cue ball along the side cushion and onto the top part of the table. As long as he got the cover on the red that he's pushed towards the right corner, he should have just made sure that the cue ball was slightly closer to the yellow, but I think the blue is going to do the damage there, and Higgins showing appreciation for the shot, probably just confirming that. And he's going to have to try and do something about it, because he can't leave that red in open play. So either he tries to push the other reds into it, or he gets the cue ball into the zone where he's guaranteed to make sure he's not going to have that red visible to Wilson at all. So, if you're going to have to try and do it off the left side of the table. I'm not sure if he's going to try and go for a long shot here, because I think the reds are going to be in the way of each other. That's what he's looked at. The cue ball's going to be close to the green pocket, but he may stay out. And has he managed to cover up that red? I think he has. It's a good shot, though, by Higgins, because it was risky. He could have had a double kiss. He could have caught the pink on the way back, but manages to get the cue ball through that corridor. That's going to get him a bit of a safety success percentage back on track. He's now with 73, and Kyren Wilson so far still sitting on 76 himself. So once again having the minor advantage in that aspect of the game. This probably has to be said. He has done in all of those parts of the game. You know, safety success, positional play, long shot game. All of those have been slightly better for Wilson in comparison to Higgins, but for both of the players, probably not been high enough to the level that you would expect to see from them. Now then, this red can be taken by Wilson, and he's played an absolute beauty of a shot. Now, once again, is he going to be on the colour? No. Breaking news. I mean, that's 6 out of 7 then that I've counted that he's got the red in. Really good long shot, and he's still not going to be on the colour. He has got the brown to take along the along the ball cushion, but it's a difficult shot in itself, and the fact that he has to try and play with power, he's probably just going to try and roll the cue ball behind the brown, but it's not really going to speed up the game massively. So that's what he's looking at. Of course, he has to do whatever is best for him, but I do have the feeling that he'll have, well, maybe he's going to try and get this brown into the green pocket instead. No, change of mind last second, and just sending the cue ball in behind this brown. So once again, 6 out of 7 reds that he's managed to pop with a long shot. He doesn't seem to get on the colour from, well, making those brilliant reds in, which is going to put the risk that he's taking on those long shots very much to the negative impact on the game. And, well, of course, on this occasion, he has got the ability to try and put some pressure on Higgins and maybe get a couple of those points, but it wasn't really about just getting 4 points off the brown. It was about trying to get the cue ball down the table, and finally, for the first time, probably 2 of those frames, have a clear-cut chance to go on a break himself. So let's see if that's going to be the way for him to try and go on about the business. Or is it going to be Higgins to try and get a couple of those reds along the side cushion? And, well, I think that's what he was thinking about. He got really close to it. Of course, there would have been no value in that shot anyway, because of the black being covered up, the pink not available into the right middle right now, because of having one of those reds in the way. So it has turned into a bit of a slow session here, but Wilson will have the opportunity to try and go for the red into the right corner, try and maybe speed things up here. Is he going to try and do it though, or is he going to try and force it into the other reds and play the safe shot? I think he is going for it, you know. He has, and he's made it. Is he going to be on the yellow? He's not. Is he going to be on the green? Yes, he will do. So that's a nice little shot there, because of the way He was always going to leave something to John Higgins, and he missed it. But if you make it stick, he can't be criticised for it. And it's a brilliant shot there. Once again, Wilson just seems to be getting all of his chances there on those breaks from anything but the long shots. And once again, just confirming that factor. Getting the nice little shot off the green. Highest break in the opening 4 frames, 58 points. And highest break in the last 2 frames so far, just 9 points scored there by Wilson. So, yeah, he needs to try and start something there for himself. He's got 7 points advantage with 115 points on the table. And when it comes to the pot success, he's only missed 5 of those shots in the previous 65 shots in the frames from 1 to 4. And then in the last 2 frames, he's only made 10 out of 17 shots. So, missing pretty much more than he has done in twice as many frames there previously. Now then gets a nice little ping into the left corner. And he still has to try and play the shot from the rest. Getting the cue ball to bounce away. And, well, slightly underrun there. And got the cue ball too close to the side cushion. I think those 2 factors are going to be connected to each other. Because as he hit that red with the rest shot, he tried to play with power, but he didn't get the red straight to the heart of the pocket. And has he done that, he would have been straighter on this ping. So, yeah, I think he's going to struggle to try and hold it. Top table required that. He's tried to hold it, and he's got the pink in. And, well, he's tried to hold it for the red on the side cushion. I mean, slightly weird decision there to me. Because I know he's one of the best players when it comes to the rest shots, but this is going to be awkward there for him. And it's not going to get easier with the black not being in play. He has to try and take it with the pink to be potted into the right middle, which is going to put some extra pressure on him. He's having a look there to ensure that the pink is going to be able to be potted into the right corner as well. But I don't know why he needs that knowledge. Otherwise, unless he's trying to take it with a backspin. And, well, he maybe just wasn't happy with the way the pink was going past the other reds. And he's played for the green. He got the red in, though, which was the most important factor. And despite him losing on a couple of those points, he should have the selection of either yellow or green to be taken into the green pocket. And 24 points advantage over his opposition player. And still can try and make his way through. Maybe 3 more reds there, Wilson. And should have the ability to try and make it a significant enough of a point of a break. For him to be trying to land the momentum breaker to John Higgins. Because remember, there wasn't really a lot of momentum in the opening part of the 5th frame. But with Higgins just making a couple of those late breaks on and making that clearance of 30 points right at the end of it, he should still be coming into the 6th frame as the man in form, if you can call one of them the man in form after the snooker that we've seen in the last couple of frames. But Wilson trying to get this level to step up from his point of view, getting one of those reds to be taken away from the black ball cushion. And just needs to play this one with topspin, get it around the green. Just about did. I thought he was going to try and use the side cushion and trying to ensure that there was going to be distance in between the cue ball and the side cushion as well when it actually positioned itself for the reds, which sometimes when you have got that mandatory bounce in the shot that you're taking on, sometimes you just leave the cue ball way too close to the cushion that you try and play it off to. Now 30 points advantage and only 83 points available right now, so you can try and take one more raid. That's going to bring him on around 45 points advantage, as long as he takes that red with a collar. And he should be able to put a bit of, well, maybe give himself a chance to try and take that black out of the game. Put it somewhere else on the table. He's got the brown spot available, so this is going to be a chance there for Wilson to somehow, incredibly, win this frame from a single visit to the table, which didn't look like it was possible when he was starting this break. And somehow he got to 34 points. And he doesn't look to stop there just yet. He's got this red to bring the points remaining number to 75 points. Now then, has he played a good enough shot to get the cue ball close to the black? I think he has. And it's all going to be down to 2 factors. Does he get the black in? And also, does he get on the next red? Needs both of those answers to be yes for himself. So just try and force the cue ball into the pack of 4 reds and ensure that he gets the black in, which he hasn't. So that's going to be the first factor out the way. And he got all 4 of those reds to be separated away from each other. So you make the black in and you are surely the winner of the frame. Instead, it is back to John Higgins. And he's going to have now the opportunity to, well, for now, try and take those 4 reds away. And maybe, you never know, you only have 2 more of those to try and work your way through. And the black is going to be very close to the pocket, which for now is going to be the advantage here to Higgins. Has to make sure that ideally for himself, the red gets past the black and drops into the pocket without touching any of the jewels or the black itself, which he's managed to do. So that was important. Now just looking to see, I think Higgins will be interested in trying to get this black to go on the brown spot because he can't afford to lose those points. He just can't afford to be having the black to be in the way of any of those 3 reds. So let's see what the decision is going to be made there by the referee. And the decision is black onto the brown spot it goes. This is going to be a really nice boost for the time being there for Higgins. He's got the paint to try and make his way through. He's not going to be shy on points here. He's only 29 points behind. So if you take those 3 reds in with the pink, you're basically going to be 5 or 6 points away. And still have a great chance of getting yourself right back in this frame. 4 breaks of 30 plus. You've got 277 total points. Highest break sharing with Kyren Wilson of 58. Average break 26 and a bit. And centuries, no, none of those being made, of course. And 22 points behind. So if you take 2 of those reds with the pink, you're going to have 14 points to your name. So that's going to put him just 8 points behind there of Kyren Wilson, with 2 reds still being there to be played. And brown is going to be out of position, which I think is going to be needed for John Higgins if he is to try and make a completed comeback. So far, the only 2 comebacks that have been made were against John Higgins in the 4th and the 2nd frames. They completed that little sequence of 3 frames on the bounce to be won there by Kyren Wilson. And just looking to see if he has got the opportunity to try and maybe get that red into the right corner. Of course, if the answer is negative for that, he's going to have to try and put a bit more pressure on the cue ball. Get himself to get past that zone of the black ball cushion if he needs it. But it says that he's going to have to try and play it off the side. And I think the way that he was playing the previous shot, he's done it on purpose there, Higgins. I think he's going to try and basically sacrifice the positional play on the pink, which is probably where the black would have been very handy. And well, he's thinking about it, but he has got the ability. If he plays this shot with topspin, he can try and get those 2 reds in open play. But the problem is, he still needs to be on the colour. And I think it's going to be very difficult for him to try and get, well, basically 2 sides of the story there. Get those reds to be in open play, but also be on the colour. That's what he's tried. In the end, he misses the contact on those reds. So that doesn't seem too disappointed. So maybe in the end, it was just a last-second decision there to just ensure that he's going to get 5 more points on the blue, which was the colour that he's played for. And then just force Kyren Wilson to be in one more safety battle. Not seeing which one of the players is going to be able to take it. For now, he's got 1 more attempt. And that wasn't enough there, the angle that he had on the blue. Close with the cue ball, getting to those 2 reds. In the end, wasn't close enough. And it's 9 points in this frame. 43 remaining. 2 reds, 2 players. Only one of them can be the winner. And let's see if he's going to be able to... Well, I mean, the first shot is going to be a slight danger there for Higgins because he needs to play this one in the way that he doesn't leave the second red, the one that he's going to push the first one into, closer to the left corner. And manages to bounce it away nicely. And an extra bonus will be the fact of him getting the cue ball in behind the blue or pink for the second red. The first one is going to be available, but perfectly on the black ball cushion, which sometimes is quite difficult for you to initiate a perfect double kiss for, which is what Wilson tried to do. And has he managed to get away with this one? I think it's close, but I think he's just about got away with this one. Or has he? I mean, Higgins is still having a look at this one. Ooh, I mean, this is really close. Is he going to be able to try and swerve around it? He's going to have all the options and all the chances to try and make it a clearance. If he does get this red in, and he has done so, taking all the power away from the cue ball, would have compromised him slightly on the next shot on the pink. But this could be a mistake that is going to be a difference between 4-2 down there for John Higgins and being back to level things. And 3 frames each there. Now that he's got around 9 shots until that is the case. And the first couple are going to be the more interesting ones to watch. It's a nice shot on the pink, as long as he's not straight on this red, which I don't think he is. He should have enough of the bounce there to try and get himself lined up for the pink, to be taken into the middle. Maybe even have the ability to try and replicate that shot of Wilson previously. Getting on the blue, that's what he's tried, and I think he's going to have the perfect outcome here, surely, because it's going to be close enough, and the angle is going to be minor enough for him to try and hold the cue ball for the yellow without touching the bulk cushion here. So it has to come down to the factor of, you've got yellow, green on their spots, then you've got the brown out of position, and he's not going to need the black at this stage, that's for sure. So it's all down to green, brown, and blue. If he gets those 3 in, he should be fine to leave Kyren Wilson sat in his chair for the remainder of the frame and get himself in with the real opportunity to try and close the gap down once again and make it 3 frames apiece. So 6 points advantage. He's going to be 9 with the green and 13 with the brown. So he still needs the blue to be taken, but he won't need the pink or the black combination either. Now then, the 3 shots that are going to define the winner of the frame. And remember, he was super close to be 3 frames apiece there against Watchalong, but wasn't able to execute the frame ball at that point. Now, I think he's perfect on the brown. He just seems to be taking a step backwards from the shot. But I think he could not have played the previous shot any better. He's just about close to the brown for it to be a straightforward shot into the green pocket. But also, just having the ability to try and force the cue ball for the blue. A bit hesitant though. You can understand why. There's a lot at stake here for this shot to be taken. And if he misses it, Wilson will have nothing in between himself and winning this frame. He's made it. Easy on the blue. Of course he is. He was always gonna be on the blue as long as he made the brown stick. And that's exactly what he's done. So then, ahead by 13 points, remaining 18. That's going to be swapped around. It's going to be ahead by 18 points. And only have 13 at the table. As he takes this blue on. Surely there's not going to be any issue of getting the pink with it. To ensure that there's not going to be a lengthy battle on the pink and the black for Kyren Wilson to try and get that snooker on the board. And it is a very important steal of the frame there, he would feel, for John Higgins. As he gets the pink in as well. And it is going to be the break of 33 points to get us back level. And it's a magic number of 33 because it is going to be 3 frames each. And, well, back to Kyren Wilson to try and do something about it. He was dominating the early part. And the first mini session, he was able to get himself into a 3-1 lead. And right now, as John Higgins has won 2 frames on the bounce himself, he's going to have to be the frame number 7, which I still think will be the penultimate frame of the first session. But we'll have to see if that's going to be the case. For now, though, it is John Higgins right back in the task. And he doesn't have to make those incredible comebacks anymore, but he still keeps producing them on the snooker table. It is 3 frames apiece, and just waiting for the 7th frame to start to see whether one of the players will actually take the lead into the second session for the evening one. The one that will actually decide if he's going to be the title holder and who will have to settle for the runner-up nickname for the next 12 months here at the Masters. Is it going to be 3 finals lost for Kyren Wilson, or is it going to be 3 finals won for John Higgins here? Because it could still be a couple of more of those finals lost if Higgins is going to be able to lose out on the remaining first to 7 battle, with being 3 frames apiece there after the opening 6 of those being played. Just waiting for Wilson to come back onto the arena, and then it is going to be Kyren Wilson to take us away for the 7th frame to get started. It has taken us a couple of attempts to get the 6th frame underway, had a re-rack, had a very slow start to the 6th frame, even from the second time as well. But in the end, Higgins was able to get himself enough points on the board for him to be the winner and avoid going 4-2 down, which would have made it impossible for him to be leading after the opening session. He still has got that luxury, especially if he's going to be the last frame of the session. But for now, it is John Higgins 3, Kyren Wilson 3, just waiting for Kyren to come back and then get the 7th frame underway. Higgins seems to be waiting patiently, and of course he wouldn't be worried if he was 5-0 down, because he probably will still have the ability to try and concentrate on the remainder of the match, and well, you never know, maybe somehow being able to even, well, try and get 5 frames back there from Kyren Wilson. Of course, didn't have the necessity for that to be the case, and unless Wilson goes on an absolute roll there, which, to be fair, we have seen before against Higgins. He wasn't quite able to dictate the run of play against Wu Yize at the International Championship final. And in the end, the second session, I just seen Wu Yize to try and finally step up his game massively and get through the couple of early bumps in the road. But in the end, he was smooth than asphalt, and he was just cruising through those gears. And John Higgins had absolutely no answer to any of those things, as he was struggling for form, especially in the second session. Right now, is it going to be a different story, as we still wait for Kyren Wilson to try and make his way back onto the arena, as he does right now. Crowd once again acknowledging that. Let's see if it is going to be announced that frame number 7 will indeed be the last one. No, it is not going to be the last one, so just frame 7 there. And it's not going to be the last frame of the session just yet, so we may still have a bit of action in between the players. So technically possible for us to be finishing 4-all. I did say Wilson needs the opening session to be taken 5-3. Otherwise, he's going to be a bit of an underdog for this title to be won, just because of how much of the ability and the experience John Higgins has in those second sessions, just to be able to come back from being a couple of frames down, but especially if he's going to be back level. It's going to be a very different session there than the opening one, from my point of view. For now, we have got at least 2 more of those frames to be played. Pocket long shot into the left corner. 0 out of 2 there for Higgins. Let's see if he's going to be able to make it 1 out of 3 here. Finally back level for the first time since the second frame. And now can he try and edge himself ahead? Ooh, it's close, but not quite. And that red is going to be rolling towards the right corner. And the same red is going to be possible there for Kyren Wilson. It was really close there from Higgins, but it was just catching too much of the front jaw. And now gives a chance away to Wilson. As he gets the red in nicely, so was never going to miss that one, to be fair, Wilson. And now he's going to be having the ability once again, as he was on the previous frame, to try and maybe get himself back in front. Because sometimes you can control matches like that, sometimes when you allow your opponent to be level with you, but never ahead, until very much the end point of the match. And sometimes when you feel like you've got that extra edge in yourself, you know, you're able to take it to 7-all and then just find those 3 frames to be won at the same time, consecutively, one after another. And then all of a sudden, he has turned from being a really close match to still you being in charge of it and winning the match by 10 frames to 7. Something very similar to the one that we've seen in the match of the Masters last season of Sean Murphy against Kyren Wilson. Now 16 points. He's going to be in between Wilson and Higgins. So average shot time when it comes to the break building skills is only been 15 seconds there for Wilson. I think that number is going to be a lot longer than that for John Higgins' point of view. And when it comes to the average shot time in general, it has been 27 seconds. So pretty much twice longer there from Wilson's point of view. And he's able to get himself onto for 3 red plus black combinations. He's about to go on a 4th one. So just making sure he gets the maximum number of points out of the position that was kindly presented to him after that mistake from John Higgins. Once again, missing another shot into the left corner from the long pot. And now 32 points after his black. So he could still try and make it 6 reds, 6 blacks there from the ones that he's got available. And then you never know. Only 9 more of those. And then all of a sudden, you're in with a great chance of a maximum break being made. Because that's still very early on to be talking about it. But Wilson going on about the business nicely. And nailing on the positional play so far. Maybe prior to this shot, it's going to be quite tricky for him to try and hold it for the black, but he may have the ability to do so. If he plays it off the side cushion and still lands on the top part of the black, maybe able to get around those reds and finish off, positioning themselves to be taken into the same left corner pocket as is going to be the pocket for him to try and get the black on. For now it's 40 points that he gets out of the opening 5 reds and 5 blacks, but surely if there was ever going to be any chance for a maximum break being made, it's not going to be the case now. He's on the run for this red, and the only way for him to try and continue the break has to be to play it into the bunch and surely end up on either pink or blue. It's going to be a great shot though for his chances of spraying the reds away from each other. And so where's the cue ball going to finish? Is he going to be on the colour? He will be. And the problem, of course, for this shot of Wilson is that he didn't really manage to get himself too many of those reds to be in open play there. In sort of as opposed to the position that he had before he's taking that shot. He maybe has got 1 or 2 more. But it's not going to be enough there for him to be over the line. Especially with all the points that he scored up to this point. Getting to the maximum extent. So technically still 99 points at the table. As he's about to take his first non-black colour. Get the green, and maybe, you never know, just try and send the cue ball into the main bunch of reds. And he could not have played this shot any better at all. One of the best positional shots that we've seen in the entire match here, if not the tournament. For this one to be absolutely perfectly struck there into the side of the bunch. And tournament pack split success. Only been 56% so far for Kyren Wilson, but right now it is worthy of getting up 20% after the previous shot, and surely the one that will get him over the line here. He's now 45 points clear. So without getting all of those reds to spread out, still would have been another chance for him to try and wait for. But right now he's going to have the ability to bring it to the 4th 50+ break of the match. But of course to try and take it to a frame winning break for the first time there. In the opening 7 frames. One of the quickest ones that we've seen as well. It's been barely 5 minutes since we got underway, and then Wilson was able to find that, he was able to find that mistake there from John Higgins' point of view after the man from Scotland's gone for that long shot. And in the end, it was actually Wilson, the player that was able to take the same red into the right corner, and now gets the cue ball to bounce away from the ball cushion nicely. And ideally wants to see this red into the right corner. But of course his options are not going to be limited just to that red. And it doesn't look like that one can be taken. So just play for the red into the left corner instead. And a bit of action on the cue ball onto the left corner. And should have the ability to try and hold the cue ball for the blue right now. So 59 points that he scores here. And that's going to be with 64 after he takes the blue into the right middle with 75 at the table. So after the blue, he needs 1 more red and colour combination. And he should be very much good to go there. So 6 minutes of a break time. And well, probably less than 10 minutes of frame time as well. It has been a very quick response there from Kyren Wilson. And just as I was talking about, sometimes having the ability to allow your opponent just to be leveling things up there, as he's done at 1-1. But in the end, having the chance to get himself back ahead every single time there. And of course, technically it wasn't John Higgins that got it back to 1-1 because he won the opening frame. And then we've seen Kyren Wilson to go on a run of winning 3 frames in the bounce. But he certainly won frame number 7 now because of landing this black into the left corner And it's now being ahead by 72 points, whilst having 67 of those remaining. So if you try and play the red, well, now you can certainly focus on the century break. It wasn't quite meant to be for a chance for a maximum. You had to abandon that idea quite quickly. And right now, he's leading the centuries least in the tournament anyway, making 6 of those. Neil Robertson is second on 5. Jump has got 3. And John Higgins shares that number with Weezer on 2. Still possible for him to make 139, which as far as I'm aware is going to be the highest break of the tournament. Not sure if you're going to get any more than just a normal high break price for it. I think it is going to be around something like £5,000, which still could be very handy and put you in there really nicely in terms of position for trying to beat the player with most centuries at the end of this season. I think Wilson didn't really have a good middle part of it though, and with all the struggles, he pretty much didn't have any of those in the UK. Maybe had 1 or 2 in the match against Elias Lesser, which was the only appearance for him at the York. As he gets another beautiful red into the left corner. It wasn't an easy one. It was a plant, of course, which he had to play off a rest shot. And well, able now to try and double the highest break for either one of the 2 players. And right now just having that ability to try and take it with the black. And get himself lined up for the next red to be taken. And he's on the break of 96 points here. On for a possible 139. Let's see if he's going to be able to replicate that. He should be using the pink after this angle though. And that's what he's done. I think he was trying to be on the other side of the pink to try and get around the red. In the end, he's going to have to take a punishment on one of those points. Use the side cushion. But I don't think he'll be too worried about the highest break value right now. He's all about making a century break. And that's what he's done. Getting a really nice shot on the pink. And now just going for a double. Which he doesn't make. But it's still going to be a break of 103 points. Which gets Kyren Wilson back ahead for surely is going to be the last frame of the first session. And it is now Kyren Wilson 4, John Higgins 3. It is back to Wilson being on top. And it is back to Wilson having to, well, duck really deep there and having a wonderful break that he's had. Making a century break in, I think, pretty much every single one of the matches that he's played. And you could put that to every single session that he's played as well. And maybe just waiting for one more to be made at the evening session here as well. And you never know, you could try and finish it in a similar style to the match that he's had against Wu Yize. Getting himself over the line and making it certainly in style at that point. So both players remain in their seats. And it's been 3 and a bit hours here, so I think it is going to make sense for us to try and finish this one right here. For it to be basically 4 frames in between the players, potentially, or is it going to be 5-3 of a lead for Kyren Wilson to try and take? Something that I did say was going to be the predicted result, but purely for the reason of, you know, if Higgins is going to come into the second session with him being 5-3 down, he has got the ability, he's got more than that, to try and get himself back in the game and still win this final. I don't think the same can be said about Kyren Wilson. Of course, he doesn't have to find himself in the position of being any of those frames down. And right now, and it is going to be the final frame of the session there, so the referee confirming that, and it is going to be John Higgins to try and take us away. Now then, frame number 8, is it going to be Kyren Wilson 5-3, or is it going to be 4 frames each? So frames to be shared after the opening 8 of those. And the cue ball is about to reach the Reds for the last time here, in terms of the break-off shots being made before 7 o'clock here in London. And a very similar break-off shot there by Higgins to the one that has cost him dearly at the start of the 6th frame. Because, the reason why I say that is because he leaves pretty much an identical long shot available to Wilson. And let's see if he's going to be able to try and go for this one now. He was able to make it, just not landing perfectly on the colour. And he's able to make it again. I mean, anything you can do. And I'll certainly do it again here. Kyren Wilson is on fire when he comes to those shots. And, well, the percentage probably wouldn't show that, with him being on something like 60% of long shots. But for the final, it's far from being bad as well. And, yeah, I think the neutral fans would probably see this one as a 4-all, being the perfect outcome for the second session. But I don't think 5-3 of a lead for Kyren Wilson will be too bad either. He's going to have a perfect opportunity to try and do the damage here to John Higgins. He's got the first chance now to try and do that in frame number 8. The 7th frame was a very quick one indeed. And still tough. It is going to be tough if you talk about the long shot, but he was able to take it. And the position from here has to be developed really nicely. And ooh, has he got himself on with a chance here? He's got the red. I think he's got the red into the middle, which is going to be enough there for him to have a great opportunity to try and work his way to very similar frames there. He's got this red into the middle. Now then, can he try and pot this one? He can. Slightly too close to the edge there of the pocket, which compromised the exit on the blue. 5 points scored. Still 13 reds to try and make his way through. This could be a great chance there for Wilson to try and take real momentum into the second session here. As he looking to try and go for the yellow to be taken into its own pocket. And, well, top's been required. That's going to be the disadvantage of him playing the previous shot on the red. Unable to get perfectly on the blue, but he's able to recover nicely. And he's got pink available to the left corner as far as I'm aware. He certainly has got the black and blue available as well as the ball colours. This could be the perfect opportunity. And, well, maybe even better than the previous frame. Because the starting point was quite a problem there for Wilson. Right now, just stuns the cue ball, makes the pink playable into the left, middle and the right corner. He's just getting more and more bonuses now for this position. Just has to make sure that he doesn't do a perfect Ronnie O'Sullivan there, where he's done all the damage to the position and then he goes on to miss the black off the spot. Sometimes this happens, very much to the very best of the players. Wilson just has to make sure that if it is going to happen to him, it's not going to happen in that last frame of the master session here. So far he's been playing really good stuff here, especially if you take a couple of frames in the middle of the match out of the game. The ones that, well, barring the 6th one, where he was pretty much Higgins dominating the play, I have to say that the frames of 5 and the opening frame was quite below average there from Wilson's point of view, but you can understand that on the opening one. And as I say, apart from that, when you have got a couple of bad frames against someone like John Higgins, it's certainly not going to be bad at all for you to be taking those out of first 8 frames. Yeah, he's now on a roll here. And after making a break of 103 points on the previous time, he has now got a break of, well, 15 should be. Make that 22 as he delivers the black into the left corner once again. And that's going to be around 130 points without any sort of answer from John Higgins' point of view. And I think he's going to be quite glad that it is the last frame of the session. And that Wilson is not going to carry all that momentum literally into the session. He may still be coming back very strong indeed. But for now, he has to try and get this black into the left corner. He's able to do so. Pushes a couple of reds out of the way. So he's playing some great stuff there. Kyren Wilson. And let's see if he's going to be able to keep up this momentum to try and take it to the next level. And he's got frames 1 and 6 there. Average shot time is 27 seconds. And when it comes to frames 7 and 8, so the previous and this one, he's got 20 seconds there on all the shot time. And of course, to be fair, he didn't have to play too many safety shots in the previous or this one of this frame. But when it comes to break building skills, he had a very difficult position to try and make his way through in the previous frame. Not so much here though. And he could be marching on to a 5-3 gap being the reality. As I say, that was always going to be the first step along the way. And it's a massive step towards a trophy, but you had to try and take it on a frame-by-frame basis, and it looked like it was not going to be possible, especially after Higgins got 2 of those frames on the bounce, getting the gap from 3-1 to 3 frames each. And in the end, the players did look like they're going to trade 2 of those frames, so Higgins was going to win the starting point of the second mini session, and then Wilson is looking to respond with a century and a bid being made here of 39 points, looking to make it 45 as he goes for the pink for, I think, the first time in the break here, and playing the majority of those shots with the black previously, and using the green on one of those occasions as well. Points without reply, 149 as he gets this red in. Gets himself lined up for the black as well. Should have the ability to try and play past the reds, but also I think at this stage you may just try and get yourself into the bunch of those. He's going to have the red available into the left corner to try and play. This should be the focus for him. Oh, I think he caught one of those reds on the way in, so that didn't really go to plan. But he still should be alright for the same red that he actually caught on the way in to be played into the left corner. So ahead by 53 points. So yet another break of 50 plus. Let me just check how many of those does he actually have. And the answer is 4. Feels like more than that, to be fair, because he had a break of 58 points. He had a century break. He had this break of 53 points. Okay, fair enough. I think it was the one that got him over the line in the 4th frame with a clearance. And, well, this could be certainly one of the most important ones. I think the century has to take the spotlight, especially for some of the shots that he had to play along the way. It was pure brilliance for him. But right now, it is going to be on charge here for a 5-3 lead to be taken on to the second session. Only a couple of shots away, though. He's got 50... Why he's got 53? I thought I was counting. 56 points as the advantage. 75 at the table. So 2 more reds to be taken with any colour of his choice. And he will be 0 next to the score sheet of John Higgins for 2 consecutive frames there. Something that you very rarely see, especially in the final. Especially when the opposition player was able to win 2 of the previous frames. For you to try and keep him that quiet has to be a very impressive thing there from Wilson's point of view. As he now gets himself lined up for the black to be taken here. And, well, he can try and use the side cushion if he wants to. It's not going to make a massive difference. And just try get the cue ball to be in the other zone here. And get himself lined up for the 64 points of a gap. So this red is going to take it to 200 points without reply. Or somewhat close to, I should say, 180. More or less. And it is going to be John Higgins struggling now at the end of the first session. Of course, there's nothing you can do about it. And he has to try and make sure that those kind of spells are not going to be there for him in that second session at all. And 71 points advantage. So 12 points that he's going to be lacking. So even if Wilson is to miss this red, which I don't think he will, just about rolls this one in. Not going to be any way back for John Higgins, as there hasn't been in the previous couple of frames. You can see frames 1 and 6 spot success 86%, 80 out of 93, and when it comes to frames 7 and 8, he's managed to take 52 out of 53 shots there and make all of them work. Now once again, he has got the chance for a 1-2-9 of a century being made, but he's going to have to try and take that difficult red away from the black ball cushion. So he's on 86 right now. As he takes the red nicely into the corner pocket. And, oh, I mean, he's played a brilliant shot there. Getting a cannon of one of those reds and getting himself perfectly lined up for these blacks to be taken into the left corner as well. So that will put him on 94 points. Once again, just pushing the red slightly closer to the black ball cushion. But should still have the ability to try and play this red in. I'll get him on 95 points, and the next black will ensure that it is going to be back-to-back centuries in the final. I said that he might want to leave one till the evening session. Well, he's certainly finishing the opening one on a bang and on the roll here. 102 points there, so still not enough for it to be the highest break of the match. But I think that's about to be changed very quickly indeed, as he's got the perfect position on the yellow. So the highest break is going to be renewed once again. And from 58 to 103 to 144 and counting, it has been a perfect finish there for Kyren Wilson. And it just shows that sometimes he's able to put a brilliant performance when you do not expect that to be the case. Now gets the brown in. So still on the roll for 129 to be made. And not quite the highest break of the tournament, but certainly one of the highest that we have seen. And from Wilson's point of view as well, that is going to be the improvement. But, well, I mean, not quite. He wasn't able to get the blue on, but it is going to be the handshake and the interval of a couple of hours there. It is Kyren Wilson taking the gap to John Higgins to 2 frames there. He hasn't been behind there since the opening frame. John Higgins was unable to stop the winning machine of Wilson, and he had 2 spells there, Kyren. He was able to win 3 frames on the bounce. That put him to a 3-1 lead. In the end, John Higgins recovered and put it back to 3 frames each until Wilson found 2 extra gears there for him to be making 2 centuries on the bounce, back-to-back 100 breaks of 100 plus there. It was 103 to start with, and then it was 111 to finish the first session with. And right now, that is going to be the end for the first session. Thank you very much for tuning in, and we'll see you around in a couple of hours' time to see on who's going to be the Masters champion of 2026. Stay tuned in. Thanks for watching.
The beauty of the world, Savannah. Let's all take a whirl. Savannah, I'm coming home. Savannah, we'll never be alone. Savannah, the beauty of the world. Savannah.